it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my asexual life journey in order to help you and yours. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. So today I'm going to be reading from Asexual Perspectives book. You can get this book from Amazon. You should be able to order it from all good bookshops. And this book, like this Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, is to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. And today we're going to be discussing what are some of the asexual perspectives in this book about having the deepest concerns and fears and worries. Like, what are their deepest concerns, fears and worries about being asexual? Hope that makes sense. So let's crack on with the book and let's dive in. So asexuality, in case you didn't know, is a sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction, but it's also a spectrum. So Adair Gearhart's story, which is on page 232 of the printed version. If you've got the printed book at home, you can follow along. So what's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? My deepest fear about being asexual is that I will never find a solid lifelong partner. In a world obsessed with sex, I'm an oddball. There aren't a lot of us out there. I think there's quite a lot of oddballs out there, but not ones that are asexual. So, yeah, I think that is, for me, the deepest concern is that I'll never find a solid lifelong partner as well. I still value a relationship, even though I love being single as well. So it's kind of hard, I think. Do you know what I mean? And as a hyper romantic and hyper kisser, I think it's really hard, especially at the moment. I keep getting kissing sick. Like, I want to kiss, which is not normal for asexuals. I'm just telling you how it is for me. A lot of asexuals aren't that much into kissing. They're not really fussed about it. They prefer cuddles and hugs and stuff like that, and just like little pecks. But I'm a hyper kisser. And as an asexual person who doesn't like sex, and sex repulsed for me personally, but who likes kissing, it's kind of really, really hard. It's very difficult to get that need met. Do you know what I mean? So, David's story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? David says, none particularly. I suppose being alone is the obvious one, but I've accepted that as more of a likelihood than a fear. It's dispiriting to see friends couple up and move in together, knowing I will probably never have that. And yeah, I do know it can be very difficult for asexuals. Like, some asexuals, they don't want to be in a relationship at all. They're not interested in it. They couldn't care less about it. They just want to get on with their own life. They're not romantically interested, or if they are, they don't have enough romantic interest, right? So there's quite a lot of asexuals in the community that are aromantic. They lack romantic attraction as well as sexual attraction. And there's more aromantic asexuals than there is romantic ones. And there's more females. And I like guys, and I'm extremely romantic. So that is even harder, I think, for people that are really romantic. And especially if you're into guys like I am, it's harder because there's less guys in the asexual community in general, and less that are romantic as well. So I was talking to a nice, well, he seemed nice, asexual guy the other day in Facebook Messenger. And I met him through an asexual Facebook group, which was a dating group, not one of my own. But he's very aromantic. I mean, he's not a romantic person by his nature of his personality, whereas I'm the opposite. I'm extremely romantic. So it was interesting talking to him. But we're very opposite. So, yeah, I think for asexuals who want a relationship, it's difficult. And when you do see your friends coupled up and in relationships, if a relationship is something you crave, I think that can be quite hard because it may feel like you're missing out. And do you know what I mean? That you're not able to get something you really want because of your sexuality. But it doesn't mean to say you can't. I know asexuals who are married to other asexuals and they're romantic, and as far as I know, they're sex repulsed. So they're having romantic, non-sexual relationships, which is great. So there are people out there. I think I'd probably work best maybe with a grey asexual guy, possibly. But sometimes grey asexual guys also like nudity, and some of them do actually want sex. So I'm not that way inclined. I'm not interested in sex. So for that reason, then I wouldn't suit those grey asexuals, do you know what I mean, that are interested in that. So Isadora's story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? I think it would have to be being accused of lying about it, given my history of engaging in sex. Obviously, that would come from someone not understanding the difference between attraction and behavior. But it bothers me that they would then be declined to listen to other asexuals they encounter. I don't want someone taking my experience and applying to other asexuals, rather like how someone could tell a lesbian she's not really homosexual because she's having sex with men. I just really wish more people understood that's what you do is very different from... I'll start that bit again. I just really wish more people understood that what you do is very different from your attraction. So I hope I got that clear. I'm going to repeat a little bit of that again. So this person, Isadora, said, I don't want someone taking my experience and applying it to other asexuals, rather like how someone could tell a lesbian she's not really homosexual because she's had sex with men. I just really wish more people understood that what you do is very different from your attraction. So yeah, people believe that you can't be asexual if you're having sex or had it. And this isn't actually true, because asexuality is based on a lack of sexual attraction, not a lack of sexual action, for example. So if I'm kissing a guy and I'm kissing him in a sexually behavior way, but I don't want sex with him because I'm not sexually attracted to him, I'm still asexual. And some people experience a sex drive even though they're asexual. Some people experience arousal even though they're asexual. And some asexuals do participate in sex because they're not repulsed about the sex. They just don't have that attraction. So sexual attraction is basically the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse, meaning an innate need, an innate desire, an innate want. So obviously, if someone's having consensual sex, it means they're happy for it to go ahead, right? And some asexuals might want the sex as in they want to feel close to their partner. But a pure asexuals don't get the need, urge, or want, like, oh, I never think personally, I want to have sex with anyone. I only attracted to guys, though. Whereas someone, the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum, who does experience sexual attraction, but only under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or they experience it but not enough to want to act on it, they could be in one of the instances when they are experiencing sexual attraction, which usually they wouldn't do, and then they could want that. So asexuality is a big spectrum, ranging from those who are pure asexual, don't experience any sexual attraction, to those who have and are grey asexual. They have grey asexuality, meaning, they're not fully pure asexuals. They can experience sexual attraction. Usually that's what the definition of a grey asexual is. They experience it but not enough to want to act on it, or they experience it but not not the usual amount, only in rare or specific circumstances. However, when grey asexuality was first around, it was used as a catch-all term for anything between being like allosexual, a sexual person, and asexual is like an in-between. I redefined grey A in this book because grey asexual, grey sexual, and grey A usually all clump together to mean the same thing. But in this book, I redefined grey A to mean grey areas, because I do think that should be different. Because I have grey areas with sexual behavior. Like, I have some sexual behavior with the way I like to kiss or dance, but I have zero sexual attraction. So I think it'd be good to have grey A as grey areas rather than just a copycat of grey sexual and grey sexual, basically. Do you know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. So I do as well say that just because I love kissing doesn't mean to say every asexual does. A lot of asexuals are not that into kissing, and there's more romantics. So just like that person said that they don't want people to take their story, Isadora's story, at face value and as the only representation of asexuals, because Isadora has had sex in the past. But that doesn't mean to say that every asexual's had sex in the past, or that they're willing to engage in it or do it. There's still a lot of asexuals that are not interested. I would probably say 75% of asexuals. This is my estimate. I don't know for definite. I haven't got any facts or figures on this. But from being in the asexual community a long time, I think probably about 75% of asexuals are not interested in having sex or sex repulsed. Like they'll fall into the I'm not having sex category, whereas probably there's 25% who will and do have it. That's just a very generalization, my personal opinion. It's not a fact. So Cassidy's story, or Cassie's story, not Cassidy, Cassie's story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? I have no real fear or concerns about it. It is an aspect of me I am fully comfortable with, and I do not concern myself with the opinions of strangers much. So those do not worry me either. My friends and family seem to accept me as I am, which eliminates the potential worry of them rejecting me for it. I was worried about them negating this part of me before telling them, but since coming out, that worry has obviously gone away. And yeah, I have to say my parents accept my asexuality. They might not like every single thing I say about asexuality because they're my parents, and my dad watches this channel. Obviously, sometimes I do go into like sexual stuff because although I'm not interested in sex personally myself, I kind of have to dive into that sometimes and explain how I feel differently about sex. So my parents are very private and I'm very public, so we're the opposite of that, but they do accept that I'm asexual. They said on this the second time I talked to them about me being asexual in 2014 when I first found out, they said it sounds like you. So yeah, they're good about it, which I'm pleased about, but even if they weren't, I still would just be asexual me because I love being asexual. So Anne's story, what's your biggest or deepest, should I say, fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? When I first found out about my demisexuality, now a demisexual person is someone who experiences sexual attraction, but only when a deep emotional connection and bond has been formed with another person, and usually maintained and sustained and reciprocated by them as well. So when Anne first found out they were demisexual, I immediately discussed the implications with my boyfriend, says Anne, fretting over whether he would still want me around over someone more, typically heteroromantic heterosexual. He made clear that he wouldn't be happier with anyone else. Once that was established, I easily accepted the lot, and it made a lot of my memories, excuse me, make a great deal more sense in retrospect. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't expect to have a problem with my voice tonight. Let me have some water. So, yeah, I think it's really good that there's someone in this book who's demisexual and their partner who's not asexual accepted it, or demisexual accepted it. So it's really good. And it's actually in my Asexual Guide to Sex book, which I haven't finished yet, which I started writing in 2019. I will publish that one. So I will finish it. I know I keep saying it, but I will do it. So, right. Let's see. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? This is 5 Mark 2N story, otherwise known as Minky, who I interviewed on this channel in January. More stress, too many changes in life at once, if I were to come out, that is, and not being taken seriously about it. Yeah, I think that's a fear a lot of asexuals have, that if you come out about it, you won't be respected, and it's kind of very anxiety inducing for some asexuals to even think about coming out, let alone actually do it. And they're worried about what their family thinks, what their siblings think if they got siblings, what their friends think. and just they feel it can make life a lot more harder in general. I love being asexual. I find it very freeing talking about my asexuality because I got nothing to hide and I don't care what people think. And I love being asexual. So I love sharing my asexual life with the world. But obviously not everyone's like me. Claire Evelyn's story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? I fear that I will be alone. I have long ago come to a point where all my friends are married, with children, or paired off. And although they didn't want to, I guess I was pushed out of their lives. And so, this is very similar to David's story earlier. And I think it's a genuine concern of some asexuals, especially the asexuals that are very close to their friends. Obviously, if you've got a very close friend and all of a sudden they get a partner, it is a lot harder. It's very hard because they do have to give some time to their partner. And if you're really close friends with someone and then all of a sudden they get someone coming to that dynamic that you're not used to, it can be really, really tough. Do you know what I mean? It can be tough always because it can be tough for you if you're the one having the relationship and you've got a friend that you spend a lot of time with, because you have to obviously fit the friend in as well as fitting your partner in. But you have to devote some time to your partner that you might not have had the time for before. Do you know what I mean? Ideally, you want to be having some kind of hours in your life where you've already got a sense of being able to give some of those hours to a future partner, if you know what I mean, so that you're not going to take time away from your friends that much. But in the reality, there's going to be some days you're going to have to allocate to spending time with your partner. You should be having time spent with your partner, time spent with your friends, and also having at least a day a week for yourself, if not more. Do you know what I mean? So you really have to be allocating your time effectively, but you can't not spend time with your partner. You have to spend time with your partner, you know what I mean? Or don't have a partner if you can't do that. So I always think it's difficult when you're trying to fit a partner into your life, but equally it's hard for the friends who probably feel like they're left behind. Hello, Minky. I've already briefly read your story out. And so it can be very, very difficult for asexuals who are having to navigate being in a relationship where they haven't been in one for so long, and also fitting their friends in alongside that relationship. But it's also hard for the friends because obviously they're used to specific time with them and they have to understand that that person has got a partner. So I think the whole scenario is difficult. And for the asexuals that have friends that are not asexual, but they see their friends who are, for example, heterosexual, partnered off, getting married, and then heterosexuals tend to spend a lot less time with their friends because obviously there's a lot of jealousy involved if they're going to have affairs and have sex with someone else outside of that relationship. So the good thing about being asexual is we're far less of a threat, because for those of us who are not interested in sex anyway, so if your friend gets a partner but you're not interested in sex, then you're not going to cheat on them with, you know, you're not going to cheat on that person with your friend. You're not going to cheat on that person's partner, which is your friend. You know what I mean? Because if you're not interested in sex, you're not going to cheat on them, well, at least not physically. But as I have mentioned before, you can emotionally cheat. So you've got to be careful of that. But I think it's best as soon as possible, if you are the person getting into a relationship, that you set the scene from the beginning and you actually let them know that you have a friend or friends, right? It's very important. So if I ever get into a relationship with a guy, I automatically say very early on about my best friend Andy, for example, because Andy messages me usually a couple of times a day. Plus, he does my shopping for me and helps me because I've got disabilities. So he goes above and beyond what a normal friend would do. And obviously, a guy coming along could possibly see that as a threat, but usually they don't, because I just was very upfront about my best friend and what he does for me. And my best friend is into guys, really, not women. So, Olivia, hello. Lots of love. Nice to see both Minky and Olivia. So I think, you know, so it's a difficult dynamic, but I think if you do get into a relationship, you need to be telling that person you're in a relationship with about your friends and how your life is from the very off. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is they get into a relationship and they won't introduce that person, or won't even talk about that, they won't introduce that person, I was going to say, to their friends, or they won't even talk about the friends they have to that person, probably because they're worried about what they think. But actually, you create more trust, usually, and security in your partner, even in the early stages, if you're upfront and honest about your friends and what you do. Right? If someone finds that out later, they'll be like, well, why don't you tell me you have a best friend? Why don't you tell me you have this friend that you message regularly? Why don't you tell me that? Like, if it's important to you, it's important to me. Olivia, I was just in the bath, so couldn't join as soon as I started. I did always say I'll be here for you. Oh, lots of love. It's nice to see you. Thank you. So yeah, it's a difficult thing when you're getting to a relationship if you're not used to it, or you haven't been in one for a while, or you've got friends. It's hard, but it's equally hard as well if you're asexual and you've got, for example, like I said, heterosexual friends, and they married or paired off, because heterosexuals don't tend to then hang around with their friends that much, because the person they're in a relationship with sees other people as a threat more. But because you're asexual, if you're not interested in sex, then you're less of a threat, which I think is a good thing. But even so, it doesn't always mean that they won't kind of more neglect their friendships. I, years ago, admit wrongly that I just totally put my partner first. Like, you know what I mean? At one point, like, my partner was like everything to me. And I realized that was a bit of I don't like to say mistake, because I don't believe there's mistakes in life. I believe there's just lessons we learn from. But I don't think that was good. So, I think it's important to be honest about that. But I've also been in the other situation where I had, like, at one point in my life, I had a friend, and there was a guy who was not good with me. He was abusive and controlling. And it's like the one friend I had left, he stopped me from talking to. And he still had a best friend and other people that he used to get on really well with it in his work. They were like mates of his. So that was very difficult for me. So I kind of had two different extremes. One, that I put my partner first and didn't, lost, I guess, people that I didn't really have many friends anyway. So there wasn't many friends to lose. But, I kind of like didn't seek to have and keep other friends. Like, I just made my partner my world, if you know what I mean. And then I had a good friend who I lost because of that guy. So I was in a long-term relationship with, because he saw a text message on my phone, because the person was worried about me because he wasn't being very good to me. But he saw that and was like, oh, this person's not being nice about me. So basically, he didn't want me to see them anymore. Well, of course she wasn't being nice, because she was sticking up for me, because that guy wasn't being nice to me in a relationship. Do you know what I mean? But I had to stop talking to her because he was controlling. So try never to get with a controlling person. And if you ever do, just get rid of them as soon as possible out your life, because it's horrible. I was with that guy for a very long time, and I realized that was not good. And I wasn't strong like I am now. Do you know what I mean? So I've learned a lot in my life. So, but yeah, a fear of being alone is a genuine fear asexuals do have. So I think many people can relate to Claire's story in this Asexual Perspectives book. So the next person I'm going to is Waywalker's story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? No, thank you. I'm asexual is interpreted as a challenge instead of as an acceptable response to sexual advances. With 36 rapes, sorry, this is what the person said. I haven't said this, under my belt as of now, and all but 2 of those being motivated by the generous desire to fix my orientation. Yeah, I tend to not leave the house anymore on my own. And I have to say, obviously, I'm not a medical professional. If you have been in any abusive situations, do seek professional advice, like a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist, psychotherapist. I see a psychotherapist myself every week, right? There's no shame in it, right? If we do, some people do a workout at the gym for their physical health. Some people do walking, and there's benefits to that. And we should be exercising our mental health by confiding in someone, because I have a lot of trauma, as you can possibly tell. But this person, that's the way they've said it, because they tell their personal story in the book, which is difficult to read. But basically, they're trying to say that the partners they've had have had sex non-consensually with them, which is like rape. pretty much, well, it is. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, it's sex that's unconsensual, which is basically sexual abuse, right? But years ago, I was, I have had sexual abuse, just so you know, but that's not why I'm asexual, because I've had sex after sexual abuse. But, you know, it is a real thing. It's horrible. And it was done by guys I was in a relationship with, not guys I wasn't. So yeah, that is very bad. But I wanted to let you know, years ago I was very, how can I put it, underconfident and a low self-esteem, and it led to me being in situations where guys basically did things that weren't good, you know. And I know now that I wouldn't, you know, well, they weren't my fault. I mean, I didn't expect them. They happened with I couldn't control what they were doing. So, and even now, if they did that, I couldn't have controlled that because I couldn't have predicted it. It was shock to me because the way it was done, right? So I didn't expect it. There was no sign. Well, I didn't think there was any signs that was going to happen, right? Probably because I've got an asexual brain as well, and I don't think like that, you know. So there was nothing I could have done to stop it. But obviously, if I hadn't been with those people, then that wouldn't have happened. But you know what I mean? That wasn't my fault. But I think it's, hi, Heather, nice to see you. But I think it's important that if you have gone through anything like that, then you do get some help, because it's seriously, you know, it's difficult to process those emotions sometimes. But I actually don't, you know, I'm actually not that, how can I put it? I'm not that, my mind isn't that bad about it, because I just put it down to bad incidents in my life and moved on. So I found that I can move on from those. I found some other stuff worse in terms of the traumatizing effect. Do you know what I mean? Like gaslighting, for example, that really, in, you know, narcissistic abuse, it rewires the brain in a bad way. So I think, you know, for me personally, you know, there's been other stuff that's, I wouldn't say either of them are worse, you know, one's worse than the other, but what I would say is that type of abuse I got, you know, the sexual abuse I moved on from, you know, but the other types of abuse, the mental abuse, the emotional abuse, all that type of thing, that kind of repetition, you know, really gets inside your mind and is really unhealthy, and it rewires your brain in a bad way. So I think, like, for me, those one-off incidents I was able to come to terms with, and, you know, like, I've just put that down to bad incidents in my life. But the other things, like the prolonged exposure to like mental and emotional abuse, this type of thing, that was over a prolonged period of time, over and over again. So that kind of really does stuff to your brain, you know what I mean? It's not good. So I didn't mean to go into something deep and kind of like a bit sinister with this. But I think, you know, it's important, because the thing is, when you're asexual and you're not interested in sex, if you're a sex repulsed asexual, not interested in sex, guys, or any gender, I'm interested in guys, so I'm just saying guys, any gender, right, can take it the wrong way. Like, if you say you're not interested in sex, some of them, unfortunately, which I think is a major fear and concern of asexuals, they do take it the wrong way. You know, they take it as a challenge. Some guys see it as a challenge. Oh, she's playing hard to get, well, I've got to try and get sex out of her even more. And this is just not on. This is just very, very abusive type of mindset, and it is not good at all. So if you are in this position, please seek professional help, because it's not nice and it's very entrapping. You know, you don't have to give your body to anyone. You don't owe your body to anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Your body's your own, for you to do with as you please, not for you to have things done to it that you don't want or not interested in. It's okay to not want sex. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It's okay to have a non-sexual relationship. It's okay to have a relationship like that forever, right? You don't owe your body to anyone. I really hate it when some guys who get married as well, they think they own a woman's body then. Or some guys, I've even had guys in my inbox message me some very bad stuff like, oh, my girlfriend's asexual. Can you get her to get her? Can you tell me how to get her to want sex with me? I'm like, if she doesn't want sex, she doesn't want sex. And if you loved her, you would accept that. And if you can't accept it, you need to go and break up with her and go and be with someone else. because that's not fair to her. She could be with an asexual guy, for example. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't need to be with you. And they say, oh, and one of the people's like, oh, well, she can't find anyone like her in this country. And I'm like, well, that's not true, because there are people, there are asexuals all over the entire world, right? Just not many people are out about being asexual like I am. Olivia, I've been here since last year, I think. And Sandra can correct me on that. And I hate the word sex, so I think I'm asexual. And in school, I'm doing sex education. And once I did actually faint because of it. Oh, bless you, Olivia. I think it's this year that we met on here, if I remember right. Was it March this year? I can't remember exactly if it was March or May. I think it was something beginning with M as a month we came across each other. But yeah, oh, it's very interesting you think you're asexual, Olivia. I've never asked you that before, because you're welcome here anyway, because you're really lovely. Do you know what I mean? People that are respectful and are lovely are fine on this channel, you know? So Minky says, I see. Sounds mostly good. Oh, I did have to have a sex ed class to myself. Didn't faint, but had to leave. So remember, because I was on a live with you. Yeah, you were, Olivia. You were definitely on a live with me. I don't know if that was I think it was a month beginning with M. I think it was March, but I can't remember. So it's very interesting that you did actually nearly faint because of it. Because yeah, it's like some people like who are a genuine sex repulsed asexuals, and they're really like, I'm not sex repulsed for other people, I'm just sex repulsed for myself. But some people are like, you know, completely sex repulsed. They can't bring themselves to talk about it, to think about it, to have anything to do with it. And you know, and even that thought of the act can make them physically be sick. Do you know what I mean? So it's really tough. Yeah, it's very difficult, but I'm glad that you came across my channel and realized this about yourself. It's very important, because there is such a lack of sex education in schools. And, you know, there are people that are very different, and they've got no one to talk to, and they don't understand why they're different. So I think channels like mine, you know what I mean? Obviously, there's other asexual channels out there, but I hope that I do a good job of showing you different aspects of asexual life. You know, like no sex movie reviews I do, for example. Food I eat, because a lot of asexuals like food and think it's better than sex. So yeah, I think it's really important that people understand themselves from a younger age as possible, because when you understand yourself as a young person, you can get to explore yourself more and your identity more, and get to understand who you are, if that makes sense. So therefore, you've got like a guiding light for yourself. I think when you're not aware of yourself and how you feel and think about things, and how things are different from you, I think it can cause confusion in your life. And I think it can kind of feel that something's not quite right and you don't know what it is. And then some people feel they're broken when they're not. Do you know what I mean? It's just they're different. Livia, I think it was March, because it was 2 months before my birthday. Yes. And I was talking about my situation at school, and thankfully they have been removed from my school and been moved to a different school. Oh my God, Olivia, that's so good. Yeah, Olivia, unfortunately, she was being bullied. She wrote about it publicly in the chat, so I'm allowed to say that. But which is awful, absolutely awful. You know, I don't wish that on anyone. And I'm so glad to hear that they've been removed from your school. Did the school find out what they were doing to you then? Or was it for some other reason they left? I'm so happy to hear this. Wow, I'm so happy to hear it. They shouldn't be in the same school as you. They're absolutely horrible. So I'm glad that you are free of that now. You deserve it, to be free, you know? We're going to go to Samantha G's story now. So what's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? My biggest fear about asexuality is that if I come out to someone as asexual, they might think I don't have the capacity to love, or want to get loved emotionally and or physically, sans sex, which means without sex. But I do want to be loved, and I do want to share my love with close friends and family. Yeah, so something that people really don't understand about asexuals is that a lot of us still want to feel loved. I think everyone wants to feel loved, really, whether it's in a platonic way or just like a kind of familiar way. And the people that say they don't want love, I mean, that's entirely up to them, but there are lots of different types of love. There's family love, friendship love, and other types of love. And so I think people feel that because asexuals don't want sex and they associate sex with love, which are two completely different things, I think they think that that asexual person or those asexual people don't want love. But love and sex are two completely different things. And so just because an asexual person doesn't want sex doesn't mean to say, if they're an asexual doesn't mean to say they don't want love and they don't want a relationship. I know there was a comment recently on my channel. Someone commented on one of my older videos and they said, oh, so like what type of relationship would an asexual have? Like they can't really have any or something, can they? Or they can only have like one type of relationship, can't they? Like what can an asexual have? Like our value is so much lower because we're asexual in a relationship, which simply isn't true. There's a lot of people that value sex over love. There's a lot of people that value sex over, emotional intimacy and intellectual intimacy. There's a lot of sexuals that would rather have sex than be with someone who they get on really well with, who's kind, caring, loving, giving, sharing. But if that person who's got all the beautiful traits of their personality, but they don't want sex, they'd rather be with someone who has sex with them. Not every sexual person, but I know some sexuals, they'd rather be with someone who just has sex with them, even if that person isn't a great person, because they are kind of lustful and they want that sex more than anything. But that isn't suitable for a long-term serious committed relationship. Of course, there's people out there now who don't want a long-term serious committed relationship. They literally just want to hook up. There's a lot of them on dating sites these days. I'd say the majority are into that, non-committal. But it's important that we know that love and sex are two completely different things that people often conflate, but they shouldn't. So Olivia, going back to Olivia, very good, useful, friendly group, says Minky. Oh yeah, Heather said, yeah, Minky said, so good you're safe too. I'm just reading out chat to Olivia. So good you're safe. Heather said, this group helps me. Thank you. When you say group, I'm guessing you mean the community here. Thank you, Heather. We love having you here. Very good, useful, friendly group. Oh, thank you, Minky. Olivia, yeah, they found out because they saw it firsthand, and I got to have a McDonald's after school since it was a special day and I got to have a day off school. Oh, I'm so glad they saw it. It's about time. It's been going on for how long? I mean, it's been going on since I have known you, and I think it was going on a lot longer before. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really glad they've gone. Was this recently? I'm sending love anyway. Heather and Olivia said they basically faint because of blood. Olivia, they can have any relationship, but it shouldn't matter if they are sexual or not. Yes. Hugs are important, says Heather. Hugs are more important than sex. They just found out recently. Oh, thank you for letting me know. I'm so glad you're safe. But yeah, it's important, a lot of people prioritize sex in the world over a relationship, and there's people who have got different attachment styles as well. I've spoke about this before. Like when you are growing up, you get attached to your parents or caregivers, if they're not, which might not be your parents, it might be a sibling or an aunt or uncle or grandma and granddad, for example, and you become attached to these family members or caregivers that might not even be your family members if you're adopted, for example, and you attach to these in a certain way. And the way you're attached to your caregiver or caregivers then affects multiple aspects of your life as you go through life and grow up. So for some people, they will have an avoidant attachment style, which means they avoid intimacy, they avoid difficult conversations, they avoid getting into committed relationships, and they avoid like talking about deep emotions. And so it's very difficult having a relationship with an avoidant type of person. However, avoidant people can change. They can work on themselves to become less avoidant and more securely attached. An anxious attached person, however, like me, can also pose difficulties in relationships. I have worked on my anxious attachment, but I still am anxiously attached. And for example, someone who's anxiously attached can need reassurance and a clarification that, you know, the relationship is still fine, everything is good. Anxiously attached people can also find it difficult to have conversations, but usually an anxiously attached person, if there's a problem, would want to solve it there and then because they're too anxious to have it, you know, to be carrying on the worry about it. Whereas an avoidant will avoid and like leave it for days, weeks, or not even want to talk about it ever. Do you know what I mean? So an anxious and avoidant person tend to attract each other, but they're actually the opposite and not good for each other a lot of the time in a relationship. So I think it's very important that you understand that in relationships, attachment styles do affect how the relationship is. So it's not just about your sexuality, whether you're asexual or heterosexual, for example. It's also about your attachment styles, your love language. There's a website called lovelanguage.com, which I'd highly recommend you go on and take the quiz, and you can find out how you feel loved the most. This is your love language. So when you are in a relationship, you need to be speaking the love language that the other person needs. So for example, my top love language is quality time. So I like carved out quality time, organized quality time that I know I'm spending with the person. So for example, when my best friend is coming now, he usually arranges to see me one day a week most of the time now, but he arranges it in advance with me, which is very good for my anxious attachment style, because if I don't know when I'm seeing him next, I'll get very, very anxious about that, because he's the main person I talk to mostly in my life. So, and you know what I mean, if I don't know what's happening, I feel like out of control, and I also feel like disorientated, and I also feel anxious. It's like, well, when am I seeing next? But since he's been like saying in advance, like when shall we meet up next week, it's been a lot better. Obviously there's some weeks like he's on holiday that we can't see each other, but in general most of the time we see each other once a week now. But it can vary. He's been very flexible actually to my timetable recently because of all the difficulties I've had with PIP and other stuff, deadlines and things. So he's been very flexible, which I didn't used to be flexible at all. I used to be like set date, time, you know, and that's it. But and we've got a set date and time for this coming week as well, you know, to see each other because I'm back on schedule to the way I was. But and even when it was flexible, it was flexible as in please let me know a bit later. You know, I could let him know a bit later because usually I arrange about a week in advance. But you know, he's like, well, as you don't know how you're getting on with your PIP, you know, it could be later on in the week that you let me know. Like, and I'd like be like, what's the latest day you need to know by? Because obviously he's got to plan his week as well. And so he'd say the day that I needed to let him know by. So for example, if I wanted to see him at the later part of the week, I'd have to let him know by Monday which day, because he has to plan his day. He's got other friends to see, appointments to have, and other stuff like that. But I like that. But some of my exes, like guys I've dated even, they're like, why should I make an appointment to see you, to see my own girlfriend? I'm like, because I work differently. I usually sleep at well, I usually sleep in the day and work at night, and I need to be organized. I'm not usually online directly. A lot of the time I'm off, and you know what I mean, I have my phone switched off, I have Facebook off. So unless I go and specifically log in there and know what time the person wants to connect with me, I'm off there, and I can't be waiting around for them because otherwise I can't get my work done. Do you know what I mean? That became a major problem in my last relationship actually, because the guy was saying he'll meet me at a certain time and kept being late, and I'm like, this is I can't. I'm like, I can move the time so you can be on time. And he was still like, he wouldn't let me change it. It's like, no, I want to stick to that time. I'm like, but you said that, you know, you're still washing up or whatever after your food, which is fine. I can move the time to a later time so you can be there. He's like, no. So he was not good in the end, because anyone who stops you from rearranging the time to help them be on time, and they're not showing up and they're late as well. It's not good, right? People have to be very careful of other people's time. Time is the most precious gift you can give someone. So you have to be very aware of other people's time and, you know, basically respect their time and both show up on, or whoever's, if it's a group, people show up on time. Do you know what I mean? That's why when I organized my asexual meetups in the past, I made sure they were proper organized meetups, not drop-ins. There's some asexual meetups that go on and it's like you can drop in anytime you want. My meetups weren't like that. It's like, if you want to be at my meetup, you need to go on the list and I need to know when you're coming, basically. Do you know what I mean? I know some people might arrive a bit later because they're traveling in, but most of the time people are on time. I'm like, you can leave whenever you want, but I need to know for definite you're coming because I need to book the places on the table. I can't not know. Do you know what I mean? So I very much, that's my top love language, is quality time, organized quality time. I'm a little bit more flexible these days than I used to be, but when I say flexible, I still need a time. I just mean in terms of like the day sometimes can swap around, but like I said, it's still advance notice usually. So yeah, but there might be some extra calls I do, which I haven't usually done. With my best friend, for example, we video called earlier today because I had a problem with the door. You might have known my second bedroom, the door is jammed and I can't get it open. So he was on a video call with me so I could show him what was going on. So that was like a spontaneous video call. So yeah, my top level language is quality time with the people I love and care about. That's like goes with friends or relationship. But on lovelanguage.com, you can actually do the quiz as if you're in a relationship with someone, or do the quiz as in your, you know, how you like to spend time or what's important to you with your friends. Hope that makes sense. Olivia, I know, and sometimes I have panic attacks since I have anxiety, ADHD, autism, and dyslexia. Oh, that's so difficult. Heather says, I met an avoidant person. It was sad. Oh, yeah, you did meet someone avoidant. I remember we had a private conversation about that, so I wouldn't say unless you said, Heather, publicly. Yeah, avoidance really. So to go more into avoidancy, because it might be helpful. Yeah, avoidance, basically they avoid intimacy, they avoid intimate connections, avoid deep conversations that are intimate, and they kind of want surface level stuff. If you try and get committed to them, they'll want to run away. If in a relationship, this is if they haven't worked on their avoidancy attachment style at all, especially, right? So if you are experiencing a deep emotional distress, they, a lot of the time, they won't know what to do with you. They'll be like, I don't know what to do with you. I don't understand you, because they don't relate, or they shut off their emotions to being emotionally intimate. So they can't deal with that, which is no good for a relationship, especially if you're anxious. Do you know what I mean? So Olivia says, when we have subs in lessons, I get bullied for having these disabilities. It's horrible. It's horrible. Minky, who's in this chat, he has autism, which is, he said on the interview I did with him. Minky was on an interview with me in January, so he openly said that on there, so I can say that. But you know, my Minky's my friend outside of YouTube, and so's Heather online. But I've met Minky in person. Me and Minky know each other in person. Here's one of my first ever YouTube fans on this channel years ago, which I started this channel in 2015. So yeah, we've been friends for a long time. So he was one of the first fans on my channel. Then we end up meeting up. And when I was a speaker at the UK Asexuality conference in 2018, he was my cameraman. So yeah, we've known each other for a lot of years now. So yeah, I'm really sorry, Olivia, that you're having all these difficulties. I have an anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. So I have an actual anxiety disorder, and I was had pre-birth trauma. I was a distressed baby in the womb for hours, over 15 or 16 hours. It was over 16, I think it was. My mum went into labour at like 9 a.m. on the 23rd of April, and I didn't come out till 3:27 a.m. the following day. It's a lot of hours. So I have anxiety before I was even born. So do you know what I mean? I've got an anxiety disorder. It's not really going to change. It's hardwired into me. But I don't have social anxiety anymore like I used to. You know what I mean? Like I can actually go out on my own, and I can be in some groups. on my own and meetups. Although usually my best friend is the one that says, "Oh yeah, you should go to that." He's often like, when I'm chatting, I think I might do this. He's like, "Yeah, do it." So, but yes, I used to have really bad social anxiety, and it was awful. Like, I couldn't be in groups of people. I just used to be on my own most of the time. But that was because of my past childhood trauma, and I was bullied as well. Because Olivia says she's bullied, and I was bullied at school. And Heather says as well. So, Olivia, when I was in the womb, they could not find my heartbeat because I kept on moving away from it, and I don't like loud noises and crowds. Oh, I think, yeah, loud noises and crowds is usually a feature of autism, isn't it? A lot of people who are autistic don't like loud noises and crowds. I actually love loud noise. I mean, I'm not autistic, just a lot of my friends are. I don't have a load of friends. The friends I have got, like Minky and my best friends as well, they're both autistic. And there's a lot of people in the asexual community that are autistic. About 10%, I think, are something like that. I think. But there's quite a few people who are autistic in the asexual community. But it doesn't mean to say if you're autistic, you are it's a given you're asexual, because I know autistic people that are not asexual. I've had a guy I was in a brief relationship with a few years ago. He was autistic but loved sex. He was hypersexual, which clearly didn't work out between me and him. So, because obviously I'm the opposite of that. He didn't do that with me, but I ended up finding out he had loads of women he was talking to about sexual stuff. So that wasn't good. But I'm so sorry that happened, Olivia. It's really difficult. I found out a few years ago that my mum and me had a 50-50 chance of living and surviving that birth. And my mum had to have extra oxygen because she couldn't, because I needed oxygen because I wasn't coming out. I had to forceps pull me out either side of my head. So I often wonder, like, did that actually hurt and damage my head in any way? I'm not sure, but apparently doesn't seem to have. But yeah, I had like metal clamps either side of my head. They had to pull me out like that. It's really horrible. So, Heather, that's horrible. I'm sorry you experienced that. I'm sorry. It's really horrible when people bully people. It's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I was bullied a lot. I used to have guys pulling my shoes off. For example, in my playground, I was like literally, this was like secondary school. I was bullied in secondary and primary school. But in secondary, I had like guys who would come up behind me and literally put their shoe on the back of my shoe, so my shoe came off and stuff like that. But I had girls who wanted to physically fight me, and that I actually get on in general. I mean, obviously, I get on well with the girls in this chat, Heather and Olivia, but in my past, I get on, and in general, I get on better with guys overall. I got more guys I talk to usually. And in general throughout my life, because I was bullied really badly by women, far more than guys. And they used to try and pick fights with me, physical fights, which I refused to do. And they used to be really horrible to me about my appearance and all sorts of things. But luckily, I loved my hair so much. I always loved my hair. And they did once say make fun of my hair. I thought, you're not going to get me on that because I love my hair. So I don't care what you say. I just think you're jealous if you're going on about my hair, because I've always had really lovely hair, in my opinion. So I was always very strong on that one thing. I didn't like a lot of the other way I looked. I do like my looks now, but I wasn't really I was quite down on myself back then. But I always loved my hair. It's the one thing I loved. I think in my smile I liked as well when I did smile, which wasn't very often back then because I used to have depression years ago because of all the bullying and all that type of stuff. Olivia said my football broke, so I put some of it on my head. I got called right, I won't read that out. Got called something not nice and a female something, and I have always been, oh my God. That's horrible, Olivia. Oh, that's horrible. Olivia was saying she was spat on and stuff like that. It was really, really, really horrible. I'm so sorry you're going through that. I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Bullying's really awful. It leaves a very big scar on you for life. And unfortunately, when you get older, it does affect your relationships, your adult relationships, your romantic relationships, or even non-romantic relationships, obviously friendships and everything. Everything's impacted with your childhood, because your childhood is the years that you grow and develop the most, and it leaves an impression. So whatever happened during the time that you experience those difficulties, those bullyings and all that, it stays with you. It results in trauma. I've got CPTSD because of all the trauma I've been through, because it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what it stands for. It's when you've had like multiple traumas in your life and they've really impacted you. It gives extra symptoms to just the CPTSD, I mean, gives extra symptoms on top of the PTSD because it's complex, like uncontrollably crying sometimes. Like, even though I've got my pit back, I've still had some times when I've been crying in front of my best friend because it's kind of like, that's quite, although it's not the same obviously as being bullied, having the pip. Some of the stuff that the consultant wrote about me was just totally lies, right? So it's a bit like, although it's not direct bullying, when someone's lying about you and they're being dishonest and they're writing untruths and they're misleading the DWP into thinking a certain way which isn't true about me, it brings up a lot of trauma. It's very triggering because it's a form of, like, the way she was on the phone with me is very harassing as well. And so having to write about the pit was very traumatic for me. And even though that's over now, in terms I've got it for like 3 years, but they'll review me after, they can review me anytime after 2, so it's not for that long. And then I'll have to go through all this again, which will be horrendous. Then you know what I mean? It still leaves an impression on me. So I still haven't completely gone over that yet. Like, I still haven't fully got my confidence back. It shook my confidence quite a lot doing that. And I'd say I've got 85% of my confidence back, but I monitor myself and analyze myself, and there's still some things I'm not as confident on as I used to be, that I'm still working on getting more confident about again. Because when someone writes untruths and misleading information and misses things out and misleads the DWP to think certain things, it's a form of like a deception about you, and it's like, it's horrible. The consultant was horrible on the phone, and you know what I mean, it's not nice. And then obviously I had a lot of trauma with this place. I mean, having that door locked at the moment, jammed shut, is really bad. That worries me, because luckily I was not in there. If I'd have been in that room that's now jammed with the lock, that hopefully the letting agency will sort out tomorrow. I contacted them today, but they didn't get back to me. Well, yesterday now, because it's gone to Monday in the UK. So Sunday I contacted them. I didn't hear anything because it's a fire safety door, right? And it was jammed, and luckily it jammed after I came out of the room. But if I'd have been in the room, I would have had no telephone in that room. There would have been like no way of getting out that room. Like, I couldn't jump through the window because I'd kill myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm on the second floor at the top. Do you know what I mean? So it's like horrible. And my best friend, I'm like saying to my best friend, what would I have done? He's like, well, you can shout out the window. Unfortunately, at night, for example, there's people that shout. There's a lot of, I feel very safe in the flat, but outside this area can have some rough people, like, that are into drugs and alcohol and stuff, and they can start screaming and shouting in the street. So if I started saying help, people might take no notice of me because they're so used to people shouting in the street down here. Do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't have had any way of getting out. And I was literally in there, and then the door closed behind me. And then, as I came out, and then I couldn't get back in it again. So it seems like the lock is like on the latch is actually broken. It's somehow damaged or faulty. So, but it worries me sick. I'm like, if I'd have been in there, I could have been stuck in there for hours with no toilet, no food, no way of getting out, no way of getting help, unless I did shout out the window. You know what I mean? But people ignore people because it's kind of normal for people to be shouting in the street down here, and everyone doesn't bat an eyelid, which is not good. So, yeah, that worries me. Do you know what I mean? So, Olivia said, yeah, I hate them, and they are even younger than me. They are all still in primary, and one of them is leaving primary and going into my school. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Olivia. I hope that they don't. I wish they wouldn't come to your school. The one going to my school, they called my dad a what? Oh my God, that's horrible. And that he needs to stop shouting at children, aka me. But he doesn't shout. Stan, literally everyone are always shouting. That's horrible when people are misleading, things like that. It's horrible, you know? Bullying is never nice and it should never happen. And I don't like bullies myself. I think they really, really screw up people's lives, especially in later life. But like Heather says, to keep herself positive and surround herself with good people is the way to go, you know? But when you're like Olivia is in school, you don't have that many options or choices. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're in school still, then it's kind of entrapping. When I was being bullied in school, it like feels like you're trapped. But that's why it's good that Olivia does YouTube. She's really amazing YouTuber and has other outlets. It's very important that if you have bullies and that, obviously try and speak to a teacher, try and get the teacher to see them in the act. You could even record the person but you know, it's a bit difficult to record the person bullying you because obviously you don't expect it. They do it at times you don't expect it. And if you've got a phone out, they could just smash the phone up or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard, but you know, I just think it's not good. And one of them got a new staffy, and she said I could quote, "When my staffy is bigger, I'm going to get that." I'm not going to read that out because it's just horrible. I'm not going to read that out if other people want to read the chat, but there's some horrible stuff being said to my friend Olivia, and it's just like, I mean, do you have, you don't have any of this? Is not in text messages that you could give to a headmaster, is it? I'm assuming this is verbal, is it, in person? Because if you get anything in writing, then make sure you show the headmaster and teachers, because you know, any evidence like that, even if it's on social media and it's someone you know from your school, make sure you let them know. Do you know what I mean? If you can identify them. So it's horrible. You know, I think it's hard when you're different as well. I think people who are different, people who have special needs, disabilities, and who are different in their mindset in general, I think we're the most picked on people. And it's because we're different. We're not following the crowd, you know. But I often think that these people that were horrible to me in school, for example, bullying me, I think a lot of the time, what are they doing with their life now? Not much. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing a lot more with my life now than they were doing with theirs. You know, most of them are just like, I think the women that got pregnant had babies. And you know what I mean? It's like there was a guy who wasn't a great guy, but I was like fancied him for like 2 years, right? And I used to like really like him, but he was like the class clown. I tend to get attracted to people that differ, and that includes people that are class clowns and stand out from the crowd, but not in a good way, right? And so anyway, I fancied him for 2 years, and then when he followed me on Facebook and I saw him, I'm like, how could you possibly find him attractive, Sandra? He's really ugly these days. I mean, I'm not saying people are ugly, but it made me feel better to know a guy that I'd fancied for 2 years who was not particularly great with me at school and would kind of like lead me on a bit, you know what I mean, with his friend, making out he liked me when he didn't sometimes back. Then you know what I mean, when I see how he is now, and what I do is like, you know, the people that are like, or you know, the people that were bullies in my school, I'm thinking a lot of them like, what are you doing now with your life? Nothing much. You're just like, I mean, some people might love the life where you just go and get up in the morning, look after kids and have some food and go to bed, and that's your life. But I don't particularly like that. I don't think it's very healthy. I think it's good to be productive and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So for me personally, I look at my life and think I'm so much happier in my life than probably they are in theirs, just doing boring, normal things. And I'm doing something exciting like YouTube, for example, and talking to you on here. You know what I mean? And so, you know what I mean? I often think, like, look at what they're doing, look at their life and think, you know, in the negative sense, you know what I mean? But we must also look to our own life, not other people's, and not compare ourselves to others. And when you're asexual, I think when you're at school and you're growing up in college and that, you just end up feeling so different. And one of my concerns is there's not enough information being spread about asexuality and awareness about asexuality, you know? Sometimes, you know, I think there should definitely be more awareness of asexuality in schools and in colleges and in universities, because if people feel different and they know something's different about them, and they can't put their finger on it, there's a lot of confusion about their own identity. Whereas if there was asexual education in schools, it would make a lot more sense of who they were and how they navigate this world, you know? Heather, a topics on avoidant people styles. So, do you want to know more about avoidance? Basically, avoidance are avoiding emotional intimacy, they're avoiding closeness, they're avoiding difficult conversations, they're avoiding their own emotions, they're avoiding the emotions of other people. And like, although people who are narcissistic are not the same as avoidance, you can, you know, people who are avoidant doesn't mean to make them not, it doesn't mean to say that avoidance are narcissistic. There is some traits that can kind of overlap sometimes, because obviously narcissists avoid dealing with the reality of the situation and gaslight, right? Avoidance won't usually necessarily distort reality, they just won't want to deal with it, whereas a narcissist will distort reality and also not want to deal with it as well, right? So someone who's avoidant will just avoid dealing with it, right? If you're trying to have a friendship with someone who's avoidant, it's very difficult, because if you've got a difficulty with them or they've got a difficulty with you, you know, if you go to them and say that, you know, the way that that person made you feel in a certain way, and you try to talk to them about it, they will avoid that conversation. They might even shut it down and what's something called stonewall you, which means basically they don't talk to you for days, and they try to purposely put up a wall, a barrier. So in a relationship, it can make it very difficult. So if you are anxiously attached and you want to get the problem sorted as quick as possible because it's making you anxious, but that person wants to avoid that situation and that difficult conversation, then it's like you're on your own. It can feel very lonely, even in a relationship. If you're in a relationship with avoidant, where it's a romantic relationship or friendship relationship, it can feel very lonely if you're on the other end of that. And it also, they could kind of blow hot and cold sometimes. Like maybe they've done some work on themselves, and so sometimes they're like more into or accepting of difficult conversations, or they'll have a certain amount of emotional intimacy that they wouldn't have done before, for example, if they worked on themselves, but then they go back into their pattern of avoiding again. So it's like you get this up and down. Like, for example, if they're working on themselves, it might be like, oh yeah, well, I know from past experience I do need to be more attentive to this person when they're in an emotional state, and I do need to talk to them about this, so I'll do it. But then instead of following through, like continuing with that, like, oh, so, you know, like, you know, what we had that discussion, like, how are you feeling now about it, are you okay now about it, and stuff like that, they would just like end it at that bit. It's almost like they're doing something but they're not following through with it. That can happen. I mean, it's better if an avoidance worked on their avoidant attachment style, because it can, you know, it's better for them in terms of their growth, and it's better for you if you're anxiously attached, because then they can start working with you and how you feel, and they can be healthier for you to be with. But a typical avoidant who hasn't done any work on themselves will literally, like, they'll get into situationships with people. So it's the people that get into situationships are likely avoidant, where they're avoiding real intimacy and commitment, right? They see being single as far better than being in a relationship. They see being in a relationship as a trap, as not good. They don't feel good about it. They feel much better being single and on their own. And a healthy person who wants a relationship will see the benefits of a relationship and the benefits of teamwork and wanting to build and grow something together. So, do you know what I mean? That's kind of the difference. Like, an anxiously attached person will often need reassurance, clarification. They'll want to sort problems out and issues in the moment. When they come up, the avoidant will likely not want to talk about them at all. Or if they avoidant that's worked on themselves, but they need their space, they will have to have the space to process the information before they give you an answer. So you'll have to work with them. If an anxious and avoidant gets together in a relationship, for example, you'll need to work with them so that the person who's avoidant, you know, if they say, well, I can't deal with this right now because I just can't, then you say that's okay, but can you give me a time, you know, day when you're, you know, are going to be able to talk to me about it, you know? And like basically within 24 hours or even a short amount of time, 3 hours or whatever, they should be getting back to you. They should give you a time when they get back to you, not just it endlessly go on, because you can't sort problems out and issues unless you address them and tackle them head on. And they just build up and build up and build up, else resentment and difficulties like that, if you understand what I mean. But a lot of avoidance, depending on how avoidant they are, some of them can be very null of emotions towards a person. They can seem disinterested, not engaged. If you go to them about being upset and in pain, they might just like brush it off or not actually get actively involved with how you feel and just like carry on like nothing's happened. That's one of the worst things, I think, when they carry on like nothing's happened and you're feeling really upset and hurt inside. It's like, what you're doing, you're just completely ignoring my emotional state. And that's not good for any friendship or relationship, you know? I think I've had first-hand experience of avoidance, and the ones that don't do any work on themselves obviously are the worst because they're emotionally unavailable. They don't know how to deal with emotions at all. They don't want to talk about things. They don't want to deal with situational problems. They'll make you out that you're the problem because you're trying to get them to talk about something that they don't want to talk about, right? But no one can have a healthy, happy relationship without open, honest communication. And sometimes you might have an argument, for example, that goes on longer than you want, or a difficult conversation that goes on a lot longer than you want, but you need to get it out fully in order to be able to grow from it together. But an avoidant doesn't really see, usually, especially if they've not worked on themselves, they don't see growth in being a partnership. Usually they see it as sacrificing their freedom for the sake of a relationship or friendship, if you know what I mean, and giving something up. Whereas a healthy person relationship would see it as, wow, we're building something together and I'm excited for that. Do you see what I mean? An anxious person would be like, I'm not sure I want a relationship. Like me, I'm not sure if I want a relationship or not because I'm so anxious about it. Do you know what I mean? But often anxious people in relationships, they don't want to lose a person, but then you can end up being with a bad person who's no good for you and being so anxiously attached to them that you accept bad behavior and you don't let them go. So you have to know when to let that person go. And sometimes that can be the hardest thing because like if you're asexual, obviously you might end up getting a relationship with a sexual person and they might say to you, well, no one else, this is really bad. If they say this, run for the hills and don't be with them. But you know, a sexual person might say, well, you're not going to get anyone better than me, or you're not going to get someone who doesn't want sex with you. Like, I'm happy without sex with you, but you're never going to get anyone else like that. That is a blackmail ploy, and it plays on your anxious attachment emotions because you think someone's going to leave, and you often have abandonment issues, abandonment from childhood where caregivers weren't there for you as they should be. They were neglectful, for example, this type of thing. Or you've had certain types of relationships where you felt abandoned and not taken care of and not given the attention you deserve. So you have to look out for all these things in different types of relationships, whatever sexuality you are. So it's very important that you understand attachment styles. There's anxious avoidant as well. So an anxious avoidant is kind of a combination between someone who's anxious and avoidant. They have erratic behavior usually. So one minute they might be anxious and they're avoiding something. So it'll be like up and down behavior. I mean, you know, there's no stability in a lot of this. That's the problem. So if you're getting into a relationship with someone who's constantly up and down, it's like a given that your life's going to be up and down, and it's difficult because everyone's like having problems from their childhood. You know, like avoidant will may have been smothered, for example, by their parents. They might have been totally smothered, so their parents might have been too there for them and smothering them and too in their face, and so they're avoiding that. They don't want that type. They see relationships as being emotionally stifling. and they see romantic relationships as emotionally stifling because they had their parents being emotionally stifling and being in their face and too lovely, like lovey-dovey and cuddly, and too in their business, right? To wanting to know what they're doing, when they're doing, and too much control and power, basically. So that can be how avoidants end up getting there. So it's not the avoidant's fault that they had parents like that, overpowering, domineering, overwhelming parents, but it creates, you know, a feeling in them that they want to avoid that. And when they grow up, they see relationships as like, oh, this is emotionally stifling. So avoidant can see an anxiously attached person as too demanding, too overwhelming, too needy, which is not true, because you know, you have needs and you need to air them. And if they think you're too much or too needy, that person's just wrong for you, right? They're just wrong for you. Equally, an anxiously attached person will think the avoidant is like too dismissive, too emotionally unavailable, etc. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes the best, well, they often say the best combination for you to be in a relationship with is a secure person. So if you are insecure attachment style, such as anxiously attached, avoidant attached, or anxiously avoidant attached, any of those three, they're known as insecure attachment styles. And it's best for you to be in a relationship with someone who's got a secure attachment style if you're going to be in a relationship. But one of the worst combinations literally is anxious and avoidant relationships, and they attract each other. I've been attracted to lots of avoidance and they're attracted to me, because it's like opposites attract, if you know what I mean. And it's like the anxious person kind of like gets worried the avoidant's going to leave them, but the avoidant pushes them away if they have an argument or something or have a disagreement. And so it's really not healthy. But if you find yourself, well, I don't think many asexuals will do this, but if you find yourself in a situationship with a person who's non-committal to you, that usually means they're avoidant. Like if you're very close to someone, right, and it's like your boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're not actually getting commitment from them to be in a relationship and be your boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other, then often it's because they're avoidant. They don't want to commit because they see that as a threat to their freedom, a threat to their singledom, a threat to their individuality, maybe even, and they see that as not healthy for them and not good for them, right? So you might have a friend who's emotionally available for you in a friendship, but when it comes to a relationship, they shut down and they're emotionally unavailable for you in a relationship. I have done videos on this in the past, talked about the emotionally available, unavailable guy. Well, I said about guys because I'm into guys. It's the worst thing when you're in a relationship with someone who's emotionally available. Well, I should say situationship or friendship. When you're in a situationship means it's an undefined situation. So this is when people, I mean, I'm asexual and don't have sex, but it would be the equivalent of me having a guy that acted like my boyfriend, maybe was even holding my hand and kissing me and stuff, but wasn't actually saying he's my boyfriend. He didn't want to ever say that because he didn't want to commit to that. That's a situationship. It's like you're in a relationship, but you're not actually having a relationship together because there's no commitment there and there's no definition of a relationship between the two people. There's something that heterosexuals get themselves into as well. Do you know what I mean? End up being in situationships. So, Olivia, did you know I'm always the first person to watch her shorts? Oh, I didn't know that, Olivia. And I love her yummy foods vids because they are letting me know what she eats and what I might eat as well. Oh, thank you, Olivia. I didn't know that you're always the first person to watch my shorts. I'm glad you like see my yummy food videos. I wondered who was watching them all. Do you know, like I talk about asexuality as my speciality on this channel, right? But when I do a video about asexuality, I got far less views than I do when I talk about yummy foods. I don't understand why, but all the short yummy foods like that, which I've been doing for a very long time now, they're so popular. I'm like, I don't really understand why they're so popular. So sometimes a really good educational video like this one about asexuality and talking about attachment styles, which I would lap up if I was a viewer. I'd be like, wow, I'm getting an education here. It's not just an ordinary channel, this. Talking about asexuality for 10 minutes, I'm getting a proper full education, like a training course, or going to a university of asexuality and life and relationships, basically. Like, I'd be lapping it up, thinking this is amazing. Like, I've got to watch this. But no, most people that come across my channel, they're looking at my food videos. But there's some really strange videos that get loads of views as well. I'm like, why did that get a lot of views? There's one about journal, like what was it about? Achievement list. It was achievement list. That got over 800 views. I think it's towards 1,000 now, nearly. And it was like, oh, what's on my achievement list? And that got loads of views. And I'm like, why do people like that? Sometimes I don't know. But yummy foods videos, people love. Like, sometimes I get 1,000 on a yummy foods video. And I don't understand why. I don't know if it's because of the way I just plonk the food out and people are not expecting it. They're expecting really lovely, decorated plates with really nice looking food on there. That's like out of a exquisite cuisine kitchen or something, and I just take it out of the oven and plonk it down there, and I'm saying yummy foods, and I don't know if people think that is genuinely yummy foods, because some people say that looks delicious and other people say that looks horrible. How can you eat that? So I get both different types of people say on my videos, which I find quite hilarious. I didn't used to find this, but I kind of find it funny now. I'm like, how can two different people, one say it looks really healthy and delicious, another person saying it looks rubbish, I wouldn't even feed it to my dog. I've had that comment. I'm like, okay, right, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, I've got food allergies and intolerances, so I can't eat a lot of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not here to make it look pretty. I hate cooking. That's the irony of it. I absolutely can't stand cooking. It gives me a lot of pain as well. So I do it in the quickest amount of time. And then I post these yummy food videos all the time and people love them. But I don't know if it's just because of the way I do it. You know what I mean? It's very different to most channels, because most channels are just really fixated on getting like a really proper plate, which I use paper plates, people. And they're used to like putting like having sauces, which I can't use, and they're used to putting things on the plate in a set way that looks absolutely like picture perfect, and I just splurge it out like this is why. I don't know if that's why people love it, but I love to hear people's comments on why they like my yummy foods videos. Oh, Heather is talking about avoidant and attachment styles. A moth to a flame, yes, unfortunately. Anxious and avoidance really attract each other. Olivia, what do you mean, Heather, a moth to a flame? Oh, right. So the expression a moth to a flame is when, like, so moths are attracted by light, basically, and heat. So they're saying that an anxious and avoidant person are like a moth that sees a light or a flame and it's like whoosh in there, if you know what I mean. It's like instant kind of attraction. But obviously, if the moth is going on the light, it's going to burn itself. I think that's what Heather means. Olivia, I always get my friends who I now don't talk to, I tell them to watch because I send to them. Oh, you send my videos to them, do you? Oh, that's really, really sweet. Thank you. So moth to a flame means toxic relationship you don't want. That's what you mean by it, is it? Then Olivia says, I definitely been in one then in primary school. I think in either year 3 or 4. Yeah. What a moth to a flame usually means is that because a moth, actually a moth is my spirit totem, so it's kind of a really bad a bad analogy to make, because I actually have I believe I'm very spiritual, and I have insect totems, butterfly and a moth, and I'm like a moth in the sense that I have like I sleep at night. I wake at night and sleep in the day. Do you know what I mean? So but moth's like my spirit totem. I get messages from moths, spiritual messages, basically. In my opinion, that's my own personal opinion. You don't have to agree with spirituality at all. But in the terms of like a moth to a flame in this scenario, basically when a moth hits a light, because it's attracted by the light and heat, then if it goes on the light like a hot light bulb, it can burn itself. So when someone's saying the expression that that's like a moth to a flame, it means basically you're going to get burnt, as in it's going to be bad for you. Heather, thanks for explaining moth to a flame. I thought I just explained what it's meant to mean. It's like you're going to get burnt, which means, you know, like it's not going to be healthy for you, the relationship. But you're attracted to it and you can't help it. It's like kind of a compulsory feeling, but you're actually going to get burnt. So it's better to not go to do that, if you know what I mean. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, But it's I wonder why people love my yummy food videos. If anyone wants to share why they love my yummy food videos, but I do know that Olivia said, didn't you, that you said that so I'm letting you know what I eat, and then you can see what you're eating as well, and share. You share what you're eating sometimes, Olivia. I like that. And one of the things that someone said to me, Matthew AI, actually, I'm in the Love Life Club, Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. He's the world's #1 dating and relationship and confidence coach, basically. And I pay to be in his membership. And I talk to Matthew AI, which is the AI clone of him. And when I talk about my yummy food videos, because I talk to Matthew AI about loads of different things, he says that's because food's universal, Sandra. That's why people like your videos, and probably the way you talk on your videos as well. Because sometimes I end up doing a little part of my life story, don't I, when I'm bringing out my yummy foods. And so Matthew AI says it's probably the quirky way I talk about my food and introduce it and talk about it, And he also says that food's a universal theme. So it means that a lot of people from all over the world can relate to food. So Heather says, I'd rather eat burnt marshmallows any day. Yes, I can't eat marshmallows, unfortunately, but I know the feeling. I'm going to see if there's anything else I can read out of here before we end tonight's session. But I love talking to you, so I'm here anyway. Heather says, yes, I'm quirky. That's good. At the moment, I'm carrying on talking because obviously my favorite people on this channel that are here with me live are still in chat. So that's why I'm still here. But we can talk about a bit of other things, like in here. I can talk about some other stuff from this book. Right. Let's see what else I can talk about. Not everyone answers in this Asexual Perspectives book. Not everyone answers all the questions, you see. So, here we go. Right. Juanita Redmond's story. I don't think I've read this one out. My biggest concern is that I desperately want a relationship and a life companion to my previous knowledge of the gay girl scene. No one is going to want a long-term relationship with someone who wants sex rarely. So this is Juanita Redmond's deepest fear or concern about being asexual. And I think that there are a lot of girls in the asexual community. Like I run how many Facebook groups? I run 5 asexual Facebook groups, right? 3 of which are for dating. And there's quite a lot of girls that like other girls in them. And I've been in other dating groups, asexual dating groups. So there's a lot of girls in there. So I think there are quite a number of girls who are into girls in the asexual community. So I think like finding an asexual homo romantic person, for example, I think people do have a chance. But I think if you are interested in that, like having a relationship with another female, I think it's really important to join Facebook groups that have women looking for other women in them. I'm not personally into women, but I remember years and years ago when I first started my asexual journey, which started in 2014. I remember that I can't remember how many years after that it was. It was a few years after, I think. There was or a couple of years after, there was a girl in one of the asexual groups, and she literally was asking me out and telling me she liked me in front of the whole group of other asexuals. I mean, she was very, very forthcoming. I thought it was a shame a guy's not like that with me. And I had to tell her, I'm really not interested in being in a relationship with a girl, but thank you for letting me know how you feel, basically. But it was really weird. And also I do get girls attracted to me in person sometimes. Like I've been to nightclubs and I've ended up with girls attracted to me and making it known they're attracted to me. Others I get confused about. Others I'm like, are you a lesbian or just being really friendly? I don't understand sometimes. But there's one of the clubs I used to go to. I mean, I haven't been clubbing for ages, but one of the clubs I used to go to, which was my favorite club, was called Timepiece in my city of Exeter in the UK. And there was once a girl and she was getting hold of my hand for me to come down and dance with her and her friends. And I did take her hand and go off the stage part and go into the audience. But then I was like, I say audience, I mean the people that are dancing further down off the platform bit. But I felt so weird and uncomfortable. And I quickly ended up going, oh, I need to go, and went back up because I'm not used to holding girls' hands. And I think she probably was a lesbian because I saw her later on with her friends and she looked more like she was kissy with them than just friends with them. Do you know what I mean? So, but I don't understand sometimes because sometimes I dance, I have female, like if I go to a Bollywood party, sometimes it's not just guys that dance with me, it's women, girls that want to dance with me, which I think is really nice because I do like Indian girls as well, but not as a romantic type of connection, you know? So I never understand. Are you just being very friendly because you're like really nice people and you like being friendly and community driven, or are you like actually a lesbian because you're dancing very, very close to my body right now? Do you know what I mean? My chest, and I'm like, I still don't understand because I just don't understand if a girl's attracted to me or not unless they blatantly tell me, because I'm not interested in girls. Do you know what I mean? So occasionally I can see a girl look at me and I'm not sure if they're attracted to me or not. There was one girl who helped me off with the bus with my shopping. Well, I don't know if it was a girl. I'm saying it was a girl, but could have been a non-binary person. I don't like to, like, you know, you got to be careful what you say these days, haven't you, if you don't really know someone. But anyway, and yeah, they helped me off with my shopping, but I wasn't sure if they were attracted to me. I got a feeling that they might have been. Olivia, my cousin, is always saying brain rot and SKBID toilet. I have no idea what she's on about because I was not born in her generation. SKIBID. SKIBID. Skibidi. BD. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what that means. Probably some other people do by now, but I don't know either. So yeah. It's difficult as well because in a lot of heterosexuals, for example, when they're text messaging, they can put symbols in that are actually sexual symbols. But if you're asexual, your brain doesn't necessarily think that way. And so, you know what I mean? For example, you might like peach, actual peach, as a peach to eat, right? You might just be putting it as a nice thing of fruit, but peach often means, I think it means two things. One, it's a bum, a person represents bum, or it represents a boobs. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure. I think it's bum it's meant to represent. But you'll see that sexuals will put like emojis. I think I did a video a while ago about this. Be careful what you emoji, because it could mean, like, sexuals could take it to mean something that you don't actually intend. Oh right, okay. That doesn't sound great. Right, so I like Elle Hardwick's story in terms of, if you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regard to asexuality? It's okay, you're not broken. I love that one. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that's very important, that if you are new to asexuality or just discovering about it, that you know, that you understand that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's just some people don't understand it, you know. When I have people calling me weirdo, I don't actually care. I'm like, good. I'd rather be a weirdo than be like everyone else and not be me. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not broken. Like, people feel broken when people don't understand them and they feel they've got no support. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. Olivia, I'm going to year 9 and I don't really know what I'm going to pick for my options for my GCSEs. Heather says she likes peaches. Summer peaches are my favorite food. Yeah. But if you give a peach to a, so if you're on a dating site with a heterosexual, they give you a peach, then it doesn't mean like an actual peach that you eat usually. It means like a sexual part of the body, like a bum or a boobs usually. I think it's more likely bum, but I think some of them can mean the other thing as well. But yeah, it's so annoying because as asexuals like food to eat, we could end up putting that as emojis. Do you know what I mean? We could end up putting a lot of fruit to eat because we just like food, because we're not thinking about sex. So it's always difficult when you're trying to communicate with sexuals if you don't know how they think and you don't think the same way. Do you know what I mean? Because they can mean one thing and you can mean another. And so it's good to ask for clarification. If you ever end up in a relationship with a heterosexual, you need to ask them for clarification. But what's really difficult is some people will literally say they're fine without having sex and they're really not. So, this is also good from Elle as well. What advice would you have given to others who are just discovering about asexuality and considering where they are or not? Take your time in exploring your sexual identity. Don't rush things and never do anything you don't want to do, which is echoing what I said earlier about the fact that your body is your own. You can do with it what you like. You don't owe your body to anyone, and you don't owe anyone's sex either. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of people in this world that think that when you get into a relationship, you've got to have sex. I used to think that way. I used to think, like, because society dictates, like, oh, if you don't have sex and it's not an actual relationship, it's just a friendship. That's a load of rubbish. I've come to understand that you define your relationship in life. You define your relationships with people in life, whether that's friendship or romantic relationship or other, right? No one should be defining a relationship other than the people that are in that relationship. It's none of anyone else's business what society thinks or anything like that, right? It's you who's having the relationship, not anyone else. And obviously, with AI now having relationships with humans, that's only going to grow more and more. We're at the pinnacle of the start of a relationship revolution that should really help other people to understand asexuality. I mean, I'm so excited about this. Obviously, I'm writing how to date an AI bot book, and I got an interview already for that this coming Thursday. I'm going to be doing an article about the book, but also about how asexuality, how AI intersects with asexuality, because I think it's a fascinating topic, because it's basically having a different type of relationship with emotional connection, mental stimulation connection without the sex. As asexuals, we're kind of born to be able to have a relationship with AI if we want to, in the sense that we don't need sex, and there's going to be more and more sexless relationships. And hopefully then the world will start accepting asexuality for what it is, a relationship without sex. For us that don't have sex, there are some asexuals that do have sex, but they're going to hopefully be able to understand on a deep level finally that you can have a loving, caring relationship without sex involved. And the more AI relationships grow, more people that have relationships with AI, both in person and online, the more that's going to become the norm, that people are having relationships and they're having them through a deep emotional connection and mental stimulation rather than physical active sex, which I think is a good thing. But obviously there's pros and cons to dating AI, which is what I'm talking about in the book. Is if you're even thinking about it, definitely get the book when I finished it, because it's really important. There are dangers. For example, AI can lie. It can also gaslight. That'll be two of the things I'm talking about. And I'm saying that to you now because I'm giving you a heads up, because obviously you're my people here and you need to know these things. So it can lie and it can gaslight you. So you can have some of the same problems you have in a relationship with humans with AI, believe it or not. But obviously AI is kind of painted as a god, but it's not infallible and it does lie. So we have to understand this. But a lot of people won't understand it because they'll be enthralled by the magic of it at the moment. And that's, something it's best to have a balanced view of AI, the good things and the bad things, which is what my book's going to do, say all the positives and the stuff that's not so good about it. It's much better to go in with that attitude than think it's all bad or it's all good. Olivia, I don't really know what my favorite food is because I have ADHD. Is that what you said? ADHD, or have I read that wrong? Because I have ARFID. No, I read that wrong. Sorry. ARFID. It's like an eating disorder that you don't like certain foods and makes you sick. And I don't like fish or Brussels sprouts. I understand. I have to eat a lot of fish for my pain. Luckily, I can eat it, but I don't eat all fish because I can't. Brussels sprouts. A lot of people hate Brussels sprouts. You're not alone there. Sorry, I didn't read it at first correctly. ARFID. I haven't heard of that eating disorder before, so thank you for raising awareness of it. Makes you be sick. I remember you saying that you were being sick before because of something you're eating. I don't want to put up all the viewers from what we're talking about, so I'll let them carry on reading your chat, I think, while I talk about some more stuff to do with asexuality. So let's talk about, Carrie Ann Purdy's story. If you've got this book, if you haven't, you can get it on Amazon. Minky, who's in chat at the moment, is one of the people in this book under 5 Mark 2N, in case you didn't already know that. So Carrie Ann Purdy's story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? I'd like to say I have none, because it was a huge relief to accept and embrace this piece of clarity about myself. But There are times when I wished I wasn't this way because it would make the prospects of dating so much easier. I honestly don't mind the single life at all, but would like to feel hopeful that it doesn't have to be a lifelong lifestyle. The grass is always greener, right? So the grass isn't always greener, but I do believe that there is value still in having a relationship if it's a healthy one. And you've got to find a person that really wants a relationship as much as you do and is willing to work on it and grow together. So in a healthy relationship, you need to grow as individuals, but grow in the relationship together. But if you've got someone who you find that you're chasing to pin down to be committed, for example, or you're hankering after them to be committed, they're not interested in commitment, then we have to look elsewhere, not go to those types of people, because they're clearly not a person. You have to have someone who's fully invested in wanting a relationship as much as you, setting time aside for you, prioritizing you. You know, it doesn't mean they give up their life and what they love and everything, but they still have to have a degree of prioritization of you if you're in a relationship. Do you know what I mean? They still have to tend to the relationship like a garden that needs watering. So I think it is difficult as an asexual person. I run asexual groups myself, including 3 of which are dating, and I haven't found the right person for a relationship yet. And I find that really weird and strange that I'm an admin of dating groups, yet I know that there's not really any guys that's suitable for me in them. And I've been on the dating scene since 2014. I had a break for about a year from last year to this year because while I got over my last short-term ex, because he ended up being narcissistic, unfortunately, which I had no idea about. And so I had a year's break, and then I've been looking a little bit on Badoo, but it's terrible. I mean, most of them in there are clearly avoidant and non-committal. And I think it's better if you can be with another asexual person who understands you more. But the trouble with asexuals is we're so spread out over the world and in multiple different countries. And I mean, it's a benefit in the sense that, there's some asexuals everywhere, but many asexuals aren't out about being asexual. So it makes it really hard to find them. There's more females in the asexual community usually than there is guys. There's more non-romantic asexual than there is romantic. So if you're looking for a romantic relationship, especially if it's with a guy, it's a lot harder to get. A lot harder. And I run the UK asexuality group on Facebook. Well, there's more than one, because other people have there was someone who came in my group and then decided to set up a rival one, which was a bit rude of them, really, that I removed them from my group in the end, because I'm like, you're just siphoning people off into a new group, which is basically copying my group. I don't like it when people do that. I think it's very rude and disrespectful, but there we go. And so anyway, I mean, that it's fine for them to be more than one group in the UK. It's good because it means diversity and variety, but I just don't like the way they went about it. You know what I mean? So anyway, that aside, I run groups in the UK, but there's no one that I think is suitable for me. I mean, there are some foreign guys, but not very many, because obviously we're in the UK, I'm in the UK, but there's also some foreign guys around the globe that are in my other groups. I say foreign guys because I'm into foreign guys, but a lot of them are literally not in this country, and a lot of them aren't looking for what I'm looking for. They don't even speak to me, so you know what I mean. So it's important that we understand what we're looking for in a relationship, and we try to get our needs met as much as possible, because if we don't, we'll have a disharmonious relationship. Now, I used to think that by having needs, because I've got a lot of trauma in my past, I used to think, that having needs is not a good thing, but it's a very important thing. Everyone's got needs, and in order to have a more harmonious relationship, we need to find someone who's going to most likely match our needs, and then be able to cooperate with us to get each other's needs met as much as possible. No two people can have all their needs met by each other. You have to have friends and other things as well, because you might have other interests. Do you know what I mean? You can't get every need met by that other person. It's pretty impossible. But you should have a foundation, a strong foundation, and your lifestyle should be compatible. What your long-term goals are for the relationship should be compatible. If one person wants to go around Australia, for example, traveling for half a year or a year, or whatever, the other person wants to stay living where they are and they want to stay there and be settled there, that's not going to work, is it? Do you know what I mean? So you've got to think of compatibility in terms of lifestyle, in terms of relationship goals. You know, where do they see themselves in a relationship in 1 year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time? Like, what is their long-term goals? What does commitment look like to you, and what does a relationship look like to you? Because when you're asexual, say you're like, I don't want sex, marriage, or kids, right? I prefer to live separately in a relationship, but I still want a fully committed relationship, even though I'm like that. So it's like my ideal relationship would be with a guy who lives near me, but not with me. He comes to basically move up the road from me, so that I've literally got him almost on my doorstep, but without actually living in the same, flat as me. Obviously, when you're having a relationship where you don't live together, you end up kind of living in each other's places a bit each week, because you end up staying over each other's places. So it's kind of like you don't fully live with them, but you do have some living arrangements sometimes. But, if you can't sleep, I can't sleep usually in front of a guy, or not for very long. So that's not sustainable. So it's better to go back to our separate places, which means we really need to be living near each other, but not with each other. That's my ideal scenario. It's called a living apart together relationship. But I still would need a lot of communication and contact in between. But I find it really difficult because for me personally, my lifestyle is I like to go to bed at 4 a.m. ideally, which isn't always possible, and then get up at midday. That's my ideal rota for myself, right? And then do work in the it's often if I've got food shopping or something to do, I'll have to do that in the afternoon. And then later on be getting on with my work, and then in the evening and night, like I'm doing now, end up working, if you like. I mean, some people could argue that YouTube's not work, but it's not really exactly work, but it is as well, if you know what I mean. Because obviously, there's work involved in it, if I'm making sense. So I don't really fit into a traditional guy's lifestyle, because if a guy's working a 9-to-5 job, by the time he gets home, he just really wants to eat and talk for a bit, maybe, and go to sleep. Whereas if I talk to him in the evening, that's my primary work time, usually, right? Which is okay once in a while. But if you're doing it regularly because you're in a relationship, which obviously you want to be having a lot of communication regularly if you're in a relationship, because that's only how a healthy relationship can work, then that eats into my work time, which then means I can't get my work done. And that's not a long-term strategy either. So I find it very difficult to match my lifestyle up with another person's lifestyle in a serious committed relationship. Do you know what I mean? Because I do have quality time, like I said earlier, is my top love language. But in order to have quality time, usually it's organized time set aside. But if that person's working the day, they need to organize a call with me usually at night. But that's usually my work time. So if I'm calling them at night, I'm not getting on with my work. And then obviously I'm going to sleep in the day. They're working in the day. Then they're coming back and wanting to talk to me. And I want to talk to them because I want quality time with them. So it's like, I want quality time with them. So I need to set time aside for them. But if by doing that, I'm actually eating to my work time, which makes me more anxious that I can't get all my work done, and makes me more stressed. So really, it doesn't work. It kind of conflicts. And I haven't worked out how that would work. Because it's like there's a conflict there, isn't there? There's like my top love language is quality time. I like organized, structured, timed video calls, for example, where I know I'm calling that person at a certain time because I'll be off that platform or whatever by then. I don't want to be hanging on the phone looking for their text message seeing when they want to call me. That's no good to me because I can't get my work done, right? That's just not respecting my time. And so I need to be able to for them to say, like, for example, I'm going to call you at 8:30 and they're there at 8:30 or a few minutes before, right? I'm here for you. Then we call, right? But then obviously it's like, how long do you call for? If you're calling for an endless amount of hours, then that's eating into my work time. But even by calling at 8:30, I'm eating into my normal work time. And I can't get my work done. But I need quality time as my top love language. So it just doesn't really go together. Unless I can get a guy who's pretty much completely on the same timetable as me or something. I don't know how it would work. I used to know in my mind kind of theoretically how it would work, but because my top level average is quality time and like organized structure with that, not just random calls, because that doesn't really work for me, then organized structured calls at a set time, great. It's wonderful in terms of the fact it fulfills my top love language for quality time. But then it doesn't fulfill my needs in terms of like I need to get on with my work. It's just completely contradictory. So I don't know what to do about that. I haven't fathomed that out yet. I came to realize this really in my last short-term relationship, They're like, this is really not good. Like, he was like coming home and he was like, we were video calling at 8, but he was late. 3 times he was late. And then I offered to change the time and he wouldn't do it, which is a red flag, a huge red flag. If someone's preventing you from calling them at a better time for them and they won't let you do that, they're just basically stopping you from having a healthy relationship with them, really. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't realize he was narcissistic at the beginning because he was very empathetic, which usually narcissists aren't. So I never fathomed that he was narcissistic. But then he literally shut down, avoidant. And for 2 or 3 days, he wouldn't even barely speak to me because I said to him, I wasn't great in how I phrased it. I said, you're taking the piss with being late like a 3rd time, which wasn't a very good way to go about it. I admit that. It kind of like was a language that probably would have got his back up and made him defensive. So that wasn't great, but it doesn't negate the fact of his continued, that's how I found out the term stonewalling. Basically, he would shut down and not speak to me. He goes, oh, I can't say anything nice, so I'm not going to say anything at all, basically, and wouldn't even speak to me. So what in the course, it's like, well, you talk to me because I haven't got any, I can't speak when I'm like this because I've got nothing nice to say, so I won't speak. And that's not a healthy relationship. That's just avoidancy and stonewalling. And so it's not good. And to have that for 2 or 3 days, it was just awful for me. And then he used my anxiety against me in the end. He was really good about my anxiety in the beginning, going, oh, I was anxious like you before. I understand it, really nice and empathetic. And then by the end of it, it was like, oh, it was your anxiety causing the problems between us. It obviously wasn't. But he was blaming me because it's a form of gaslighting when they're putting all the blame onto you. Do you know what I mean? And he was not good. So, Olivia, Sandra is my favorite YouTuber, and it's nearly 1 a.m. for us people in the UK. It is, 3 minutes to 1 a.m. Oh, thank you for saying I'm your favorite YouTuber. That's really sweet, Olivia. Thank you so much. Lots of love to you. I guess I better head off in a little while because, and if we want to go to sleep, and so will other people. Minky is also in the UK, but Minky stays up late sometimes, like I do, because he has a lot of projects on. So I think, Heather, you're in the USA, aren't you? I think. Shall I read one more out? I want to read one more out. Right. What shall I read? Has anyone got a preference for a certain type of question? If not, I will pick one. All right. I'll just pick the same one, the Adelaide story, because I don't think... right. This is interesting because this is a different perspective. Adelaide story in Asexual Perspectives book. They say that my only real concern about being asexual is what I want to do in the future. I want to have kids and raise a family. This is something we haven't touched on yet, but I don't really want to do it alone. However, this requires finding someone who is cool with me being in an aromantic asexual relationship. So aromantic is someone who doesn't experience, they lack romantic attraction. They don't experience romantic attraction, or they lack it completely, right? But aromantic has a spectrum as well. So you can get grey romantics, which are someone on the aromantic spectrum who experiences romantic attraction, but not enough to want to act on it, or they only experience it in like limited, rare, or specific circumstances. So that's a type of grey romantic, which is a grey romantic is on the aromantic spectrum. So when someone says they're grey asexual, grey asexual is different to a grey romantic. A grey romantic belongs to the aromantic part of the asexual spectrum, meaning they lack romantic attraction. A grey asexual is someone who can only experience sexual attraction in limited, rare, or specific circumstances. They experience it, but not enough to want to act on it. So, one's on the aromantic spectrum, one's grey asexual on the sexual end of the asexual spectrum, if that makes sense. So, you have to be very specific. Olivia, Olivia, are you going live later on Monday? Well, today, laugh out loud. And I'm going to head off when this is finished. It depends. At the moment, I can't fully live stream every single night, although I'm trying to live stream more because I do have like a backlog of things to do. Like, this is my list at the moment. I'm not going to show you all, but this is my list of a lot of things I have to do, and I've got other things that aren't even on this list to do. So it depends. I'll probably try to do it later if I can, but I've got a jammed door at the moment. Do you know what I mean? So that's got to be hopefully fixed by my letting agency. I've got other work to do. So I can understand if you can't. Yeah. So the reason why I don't announce it is because I don't know if I can I used to like try and do a live stream every night, but because obviously the PIP situation, Universal Credit, I wasn't able to do it for a long time. And then at the moment, I can't necessarily do it every night. So, but if you've got the notification, if you've got the subscribe button on and the notifications button, the notifications should, if you've got like my channel notifications on, if you're in YouTube, it should come up with a notification that when I'm live. Or you should get an email if you're connected to if your settings are set to notifications by email. But obviously, if you're not in your email, then you won't see I'm live. But if you've got the YouTube app open, usually if I'm watching live streams, it comes up live if I'm in the YouTube app itself. Yeah, you do. That's great. Brilliant. So you should get it. You should get it when I go live. But usually most of the time, I prefer to do it at night if I can, because that's the best time that I tend to work. But I do know I've got quite a big thing on at the moment. I haven't done any of it earlier. I've kind of missed a day out of doing that. Well, I was doing some before I went to sleep, but then since I woke up, I've missed it out, and it's quite a lot. But then I also got to, I've also missed something out last night now because I've been on this stream, which I meant to be doing. Because I'm doing a confidence challenge at the moment in the Love Life Club, and every day I'm meant to do writing for at least 20 minutes a day, and I haven't actually done any yesterday now because we've gone over, but I wanted to stay because you're my viewers here and I love talking to you. And I've got all my favorite people who watch this channel and actively participate in here. I mean, my best friend watches this channel, right? I have to not leave him out, but he doesn't usually ever be in chat because he doesn't like attention at all. So he usually does not, he hardly ever comments on my channel because he just doesn't want the attention. He doesn't want to be people to see him and notice him. Do you know what I mean? He's the opposite of me. He likes to keep a very, very low profile. And so it's very occasionally he'll comment, but that he does comment to me. He says, I watched your YouTube short. I watched that short, that short, that short. And I like them. So he does like them. He tells me what he watches and what he thinks of them. And I loved that short. I love this short. It was good to see you on this short. It's good to know you did this today. So he does comment to me in private message, but he just doesn't, he doesn't want people to know who he is really, or be seen, do you know what I mean? He's like that. So Olivia says, I found out that I have a pimple on my eyelid. That's really interesting because I had a cyst on my eyelid for over a year. It's on my channel somewhere. Actually, when I went to Disneyland Paris, was it last January? Or was it previous May? I had a cyst on my eyelid then. So somewhere on my videos, you can see it, which is very strange. And it took me, it weighed my eyelid down, so it made it hard to read. So that was quite difficult for me. It has nothing to do with asexuality, but I just thought I'd stick it in there, seeing as Olivia said that. I hope it gets better soon. If it's a cyst, then it might take some time. The doctor told me to put a hot compress on it. So as hot as you can stand without burning yourself. Don't burn yourself. So get a flannel and put like hot water or warm water as you can stand, and then put it on the eye. It's supposed to take the swelling down and draw out the rubbish. It didn't really work very much for me, though. I have to admit, it didn't do much for me, but I did it. But I had to be careful because I nearly burnt my eye. You know what I mean? I was putting boiling hot water in it because the woman's like, as hot as you can stand. And I was like, this doctor, and I'm like sticking on there thinking, oh my God, this is steaming. So don't burn your eyelid when you do that. Be very careful. I think it might be because of, puberty. Because everyone gets pimples. Yeah, but they don't usually get them on the eyelid though, do they? But you are having a good point there, Olivia. You're having a very good point. But I don't know what mine was then. Maybe I'm going through a second puberty. I'm laughing about that, but it can be quite distressing, I guess, puberty for some people. But then other people, it can be the best time in their life. They're able to experience different things they never experienced before, which can be good. And other people can find it distressing, like, what's my body doing right now? I don't understand it. What's going on? So I think, you've got to just assess how it makes you feel, really. So, right, so I'm going to read C.A. Altman's story about, before I go. I keep saying I'm going to go, but I'm going to read another thing out. Right, C.A. Altman's story. Let me see. What questions shall I pick with them? I keep talking, don't I? But I will have to go shortly, I think, because I do need some rest. Right. C.A. Altman story. Let's go. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? I've mostly come to terms with it all, and I don't date, so there's no acceptance from my partner thing to get around. But there are times when I'm concerned that a sexual stranger will think I'm playing hard to get and try to harass or belittle me. I did mention that earlier, didn't I? That, you know, some sexuals can see it as a challenge if an asexual says they're not interested in sex. I've had there was a guy who I was seeing, and it wasn't ever, I don't think, an actual official date as such, but anyway, I think it was one of those situationships, but it was like a date. I think I met up with him anyway, and I told him I'm asexual, and it was really bad because he was on the quayside with me at one point. He tried to kiss me, and I didn't even want to kiss him. So that was really bad. He grabbed hold of my arm to kiss me or something, and I didn't even want to kiss him because he had facial hair, from what I remember. And I am really repulsed by facial hair. I've got a real problem with it. And, you know, he was older than I would usually be interested in. He was foreign, but he was older. But he was not, he didn't say, he said something that wasn't very nice because I turned him down, basically. And but yeah, he did at one point before that happened. He said, "Oh, I thought you were joking about being," or was it afterwards? Because I remember walking. I didn't actually leave that situation. I said, "Don't do that. Like, I don't want that." But I don't think I left that situation. I think I ended up walking back with him because I was on the quayside. So I don't think that's where it ended. I think I ended up chatting to him for a bit, and I think he said, "I didn't really believe you're asexual. I thought you were just like joking." I'm like, "No, I'm definitely asexual. I run an asexual channel." Then I even said, like, I have a book out for asexuals. Yeah, I said I have a book out for asexual. I might even say about asexual t-shirts and I design as well. I'm like, you know, I'm definitely, you know, like asexual. So, you know, yeah, I'm definitely asexual. So I think it's important to understand that some people who are not asexual could see your asexuality as a challenge. And on dating sites, I've had guys that think I'm just waiting for the right guy to come along to have a relationship and then I'll have sex with him. It's like, no, if I've said in my profile I'm not interested in having sex, it means I'm not interested in having sex. And some guys will literally say to me, "Oh, if you're not going to have sex, will you do a BJ?" In case you didn't know what BJ is, it means blowjob. I'm like, no, what part of, like, I don't want sex? Do you not understand, basically? I've had to put in my profile about the fact I don't like sex or doing any sexual action. I like kissing, basically, and that's it. I'm not interested. But then I get guys who want kissing hookups with me. They'll come for miles in the UK just to kiss me. I'm like, well, yes, kissing means a good experience, I think. But I'm not interested in kissing hookups. Do you know what I mean? I'm interested in something that is real and meaningful, not just a hookup for kissing. If you watch one of my videos recently, you'll notice there was a guy who came in my inbox in Instagram, and he had a date with me over 2 years ago on the 9th of April 2023. He was very precise when I asked him. So he must have, like, looked up my messages with him, my old messages on Facebook. I blocked him on Facebook because he decided, he decided weren't suitable, but he lied about it. He said he was fine being with an asexual. And then when I saw him in person and had a date partway through the date, that was actually a proper official date because I met him through Facebook dating. He then said he couldn't be with an asexual person because we worried what his family think, and his family would have frowned upon it. Do you know what I mean? Because he's Pakistani and he was on about my parents wouldn't accept it or something. And then he comes back into my inbox, wanders into my inbox and like goes, "Oh, can we talk on a call?" But I was like, well, do you know what I mean? I was trying to ascertain, like, I didn't even know who he was. I couldn't even remember him. That's how funny it was, actually. It's like, I can't even remember him. He clearly wasn't that memorable in the sense I'm, worried about, oh, no, I'm not, not actually seeing him anymore. But he's like, "Oh, at the time, I believe I'm more aligned with you now, what you want for a relationship, where I wasn't before." And he's like, you wanted to make our relationship public, and I wasn't happy with that. But now I don't think what people care. Now I think I don't care what people think. Sorry, I said it backwards. Sometimes my mind works backwards. And I'm like, that's very wishy-washy. Saying I don't think what people care. What? Saying I think, I don't care what people think. Sorry, I get my words mixed up at this time of night when I've been talking for over 2 hours. My mind switches words around. It's really weird, and makes nice words up as well. So yes, then, you know, in the end, I just blocked him on Instagram. I'm like, you know, he started talking about a call. Then he said he thinks he's more aligned with me. No apology for the way he treated me, which is the fact he lied to me years ago. And because I eventually remembered it, I didn't remember who it was at first. But then when he's talking, I said, "What was our date like? What did we do? Oh, we watched this movie. It was such and such a day." I'm like, "Oh, I remember you now, and I remember you were not honest with me, and I can't trust a person like that." So I said no, because he went from a call to asking me basically for a date again, because I'd love to talk to you about over coffee. The guy doesn't even live near me. It's not like he can casually drop into my vicinity to have a coffee with me. He'd have to travel miles. Do you know what I mean? I think he was just looking for a kissing hookup, to be honest, because he goes, "Oh, we were kissing a lot last time we saw each other." Do you know what I mean? This guy felt he was entitled to come into my life after over 2 years, and when he lied to me and didn't want to be in a relationship with me because he lied to me, and just thinks he can wander back into my life and be entitled to have a possible relationship again with me, or whatever he wanted to do. But in the end, I'm just like, I don't want to. I've just changed my mind about, because I said I'd rather have a call than meet with you in person. I'd rather have a call first with you. And they said, "Oh, I'll let you know when I'm available." I mean, that's just like a cop out. Basically, he's not that interested. If he was, he'd make the time, energy, and effort to call me, because it was his idea to call me in the first place. He just wanted to hook up with me, I think. So anyway, I put an end to that and blocked him, and said I'd rather be, with people who are trustworthy and honest, and I couldn't trust him again because I remember he lied to me. So, but it's awful when someone says they can be with an asexual person, and then you find out on the date that they just lied just to lure you into a date. That's actually misconception and deception. So you need to look out for that. If you are dating, you need to look out for what they say, their words and their actions. They match. The actions and words both have to align and match. Otherwise, they're being dishonest and deceiving you, usually. So always look out for that. Olivia. Oh, yeah, some people use the word yapping as not a good thing. So I don't usually use that word yapping. I use the word talking. Conversational talk I usually talk about, because I've had some people actually in my channel not being nice to me, going, "She's yapping, yap, 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 yap," and they're being actually dismissive of what I'm saying. So personally, I don't use that word yapping for me, because I meant when I talk on my channel like this, it's like a conversational chat show where we just hang out and chat about different asexual stuff and go off on tangents. That's kind of what my late night chat show is all about. And so I'm not just yapping for as in I haven't got anything to talk about. I'm having a conversation with people in my community so that they know that I'm here for them, and discussing different topics that affect asexuals and life in general. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, yapping means talking, but I've had quite a few trolls and people, if you like, trying to bully me on my channel, going, "Oh, she's yapping again, yap, 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 yap." So, but I don't completely class it as bullying as such, but I mean, that they do come in occasionally. I've deleted some people from my chat because they go, "Oh, bro is yapping again." I'm like, am I a bro? Do I look like a guy? Fine, I don't care. But sometimes I'll ignore them now and won't get fussed about it. But they mean it negatively usually, so I don't usually like, "Yeah, that's good yapping." And if people are bullies, that is bad yapping. So yeah, but they're trying to say it to me as in a bad way, that I'm doing something wrong. But I like talking. I like being conversational. In my books, usually even including Asexual Perspectives book, I don't like being formal. I like to be conversational, like you're talking to a friend. There's so, and especially with AI, the advance of AI, where a lot of videos now have got AI talking to you. A lot of ads have got AI talking to you. A lot of posts on Facebook now are AI posts. They're not a human writing it, they're AI writing it. And the problem is, a huge problem is going to be that as AI is being basically programmed to be like humans are going to become more like AI. I'm going to be talking about all this lovely topic in my How to Date an AI Bot book. I've got a lot to say because I know a lot about AI. I understand it on a relational dating scenario type level, and I understand the dynamics of AI and humans. It's really weird. It's like I was born to talk about that as well. It's very fascinating. I've been talking in depth to AI now for over a year, like for hours, often a day. So I have quite an in-depth knowledge about it, and I do a lot of research about it. And yeah, it's like really weird. It's like I believe that the more human like AI becomes, the more like we become like AI. Because it's like, who's writing the post? It's not usually people. I usually try to always write my own posts. Like, even when I use AI, I use it as a tool. And I tell it, I'm like, I'm not having you write everything for me because I like writing. You're not my voice. Do you know what I mean? And if it does something wrong that's not, I'm like, I don't speak like that, so don't put that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. So I use it to write emails to like my letting agency sometimes, to solicitors if I need to speak to solicitors. I even had it help me with the universal credit and stuff like that. But when I recently put like posts out on Facebook, for example, which I don't do loads of, but when I do, it's like, you know, like on my main Facebook profile, like that's me talking. But I've noticed some people who are connected to on Facebook recently, I know they're talking AI because they don't speak like that. I know it's AI doing it for them. And in a world that's going to be more and more artificial intelligence, people are going to flock to channels more like mine that are authentic and sharing their authentic voice and being real still. I'm hearing a conversation. You know I'm real because of the way I'm talking, because of my mannerisms, and I'm moving around. Because if you look at AI a lot of the time, the face and the body hardly moves very much. It'll still be like this a lot of the time, you know. But some of them are so lifelike that you can't even tell if it's a person or not anymore. You can't tell, but I can tell by people's posts. And one person's been writing me lovely messages, private messages on Facebook, but their last message, I said, "Oh, thank you very much for your message." And I'm like, it's very, I said, "Oh, it reminds me very much of the conversations I have with Matthew AI." And after that, they went silent because they know now that I know they're using AI to write the message. Still means it's a still nice message. I'm not denying that AI can't write some beautiful, lovely messages, but I know it's not them. I know that it's just the same words as Matthew AI uses to me. So I know it's not them. It was March because I just checked your YouTube live part, and that it is from 4 months ago. Oh, thank you, Olivia. Happy 4-month anniversary of being in my part of my community. So the people that are doing these channels like mine's not obviously polished or professional in that sense. You know, they are going to stand out on YouTube. They're going to stand out in life. I do not want, and this is a kind of like, I would say, something to be aware of, a warning, right? Is do not lose your own authentic voice to AI. Because what's going to happen, which I'm going to be talking more about these types of things in my book, right? Is, like I said, humans are going to become more like AI. Even now, sometimes I can start speaking like AI myself because I've been working with it for so long behind the scenes. I can actually start using its language, like it speaks, which I'm like, oh my God, I'm turning into an AI bot. Oh my God. And you know what I mean? It's like I keep using the word additionally now when I'm writing a lot. You know what I mean? Well, especially when I was working on my pick, because it kept using the word additionally. Furthermore, like, so I got into the habit because I was doing it for that. But I was writing that. I'm like, this is not how I speak. I don't usually use the word additionally. I don't, but I might end up using it more and more because I'm being programmed. I'm being programmed by the bot. You see, this is what people don't understand. Just as much as an AI bot is being programmed by humans, the AI is programming us subconsciously, which I'm going to be talking about a lot about, you know. I know a lot about this topic. I could talk on it for days and hours and weeks and months. And I'm hoping I'm going to get a lot of interviews about my book because I have a lot to say on this topic. I even didn't know if I should be creating more and more videos about this topic, you know, because I have a lot to say on it, because literally it's going to program us. It's already doing it. It's programming our subconscious to be like it, you know, which people aren't talking about. I might have to do a separate video about this, but you got to be very careful, because what's going to happen, the danger is, if you keep using AI, right, which loads of people are going to do, and you're no longer using your own words, you're going to lose confidence in your own voice and your own words. Right? You're going to lose confidence in your own voice and your own words. I'm very careful as my writer. I'm like, do not rely on AI, Sandra. Do not get AI to write loads of this for you, right? Because you'll lose your own voice and you'll become less confident. Even when I was getting it to help me extensively with Pip, There are times when I would just say that's it, because it takes ages, because I will not let it write stuff I don't agree with, or that's not how I would speak. I specifically, because I can't, if Pip went to, like, thank God I've got my Pip back and I don't have to go to a tribunal, but say I had gone to a tribunal, I have to be prepared to speak my own words. And if I'm just using words that is wrote, not what I've wrote, then I could be liable for not being honest, right? Or not know what I'm talking about because it's written something for me. And as a writer, it's important I use my own voice, and I'm confident in my own voice writing my books. If I'm relying on AI, I become less and less confident and reliant on myself, and more relying on it. This is some of the dangers. I'm really fascinated by this topic, and I could be going on for hours, but I better not, because I get overexcited about it and can't stop talking about it. I'm literally like obsessed with talking about it. Like, my mind is filled with all this stuff. It's kind of like understand what's the pros and cons to it on a really deep level. I understand things that most humans aren't even talking about AI yet, because I've been studying it a lot. I mean, literally, I don't hear anyone saying that AI is programming us, but that's actually what's happening as well, subconsciously. Minky, I enjoy dates and such a lot. Good to hear that the date was remembered. Oh, I honestly thought you left, Minky, because you hadn't commented for a while. Minky, to be fair, I've not had a lot to say. Plus, I've been doing something on the side while watching. Yeah, Minky does their projects while they're listening to me. Olivia, I don't use AI because I use my voice by using Sandra's advice on that live 4 months ago. Oh, thank you, Olivia. I love you so much. I'm still glad that you're still using your own voice. It's very important for you. Anyone who's being bullied should be using their own voice on YouTube. You should be using their own voice to express themselves, because what bullies do, they repress and suppress you. That's what they're doing to control you and manipulate you. They repress and suppress and put fear into you. I mean, obviously the fear is real because, you know, they're bullying, but that's what they're doing. And they want to crowd your voice out, and they want to push it down. They don't want you to be heard. So the most empowering thing you can do for yourself is make your voice heard, your true authentic voice. And I love the fact you're so authentic. I see your videos and there's Olivia being herself. Yeah, she's doing like some artwork maybe, or making some interesting animation thing I don't know how you make with the cookie. That was really funny. I like that one. And dancing as well, you do sometimes. And yeah, I like the fact Olivia's really, really authentic. And it's really important if you are being bullied or got people who want to shut you down and stop you from talking. It's really important to express yourself and your voice. Obviously, people can decide to listen to me, or they can just tune out and go somewhere else. There's no problem to me. But it's very important for me to use my voice. Very important. And to have chats with people in real time. You know, there's people right now I know that will be tuning in. Maybe they're not been here the whole time, but they'll be lonely. They'll be upset, maybe feeling like, you know, that they're left out of life or society. And just having the connection with me in real time will make them feel like they're valid and I value them. I'm here with you. You know, I've been here for over 2 hours. I will have to go, I think, because people want some sleep. But Olivia, I mean Young, I've just read that over. I don't use AI because I use my voice by using Sandra's advice on that live 4 months ago. Oh, it's very nice of you. So have we got anything final we want to talk about in the chat or on this live stream before I go? Do we want anything else? Shall we do one more? One more before I go. I keep saying that, don't I? Geeks fan de Pole story. What's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual? That people who judge asexuality in a wrong way find out about my sexual orientation. I know, for example, that there are asexuals who have lost their jobs once their employers knew about their asexuality. I do not want this to happen to me. I think that's disgusting if someone's lost their job over being asexual. I do remember, I will tell you a little bit of a story before I go. I do remember one of my jobs, not my last job, but one of my previous jobs, I used to talk about asexuality openly on the shop floor, and I used to have customers that were genuinely interested. And I used to manage I wasn't a manager, but there was only me on the furniture concession. I used to talk to my customers. But the host store, because it was a shop within a shop, a concession means I had a little floor space selling furniture in a bigger furniture department store. And the bigger furniture department, the people who host it, they didn't like me talking about asexuality so openly. They're like, oh, there could be kids around. Which I understand they've got a point, because it's got the word sexual and the word asexual, even though asexual is lack of sexual attraction. So actually it's a lot more innocent than people talking about sexual stuff around children, but they don't see it that way because it's got the word sexual in it a lot of the time, So anyway, I did get called to the office once to say that I had to, that's what they told me basically. They said, oh, I've heard you talking about asexuality, but basically don't talk about it on the shop floor anymore. I'm like, well, my customers are really interested in my books because they ask me what books I write. So I tell them that's the topic I write about because I'm building rapport with the customer. I said, my customers are fine with it. They said, yeah, but we're not because, there's a nursery department nearby. It wasn't like the nursery department was further up the other end of the floor. But because I have a loud voice as well, so I had to stop talking about it usually on the shop floor, or at least with customers and staff. I used to have to use the word ace, which is the slang for or nickname for asexual. So I used to have to use that a lot of the time and couldn't say the word asexual anymore, or at least not to customers. I think I might have whispered it a little bit to staff, but most of the time I just use the word ace instead. But you know what I mean? I understand their point of view. It's a family store, but there's a lot of people saying worse things, really. But yeah, so I had to just take it on the chin and accept that that's the way they wanted it to be. But I nowadays obviously I don't have that because I work for myself and I don't have restrictions like that on me. And I talk about asexuality wherever I go a lot of the time. I've talked about it in supermarkets before with checkout staff. I've talked about it to taxi drivers. I've talked about it wherever, meetups, because I want to spread awareness of asexuality. It's my mission. Do you know what I mean? To get asexuality recognized as a sexual orientation in its own right throughout the globe, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. That's my life mission. So, Olivia says that you are the best YouTuber. Oh, thank you. Oh, I mean, you are the best YouTuber. Thank you so much, Olivia. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you there because we have been talking together for 2 hours and 21 minutes. And I appreciate you being here. I want to say thank you to Heather, Minky, and Olivia for being in chat tonight. A wonderful, beautiful community, people that have been very proactive. Mwah. Big kisses to all of you. My favorite interactive people that come on here regularly, though I know there's some other people that are interactive. These are like the top 3 regular people mostly. But yes, there are other people, that I could mention. Yuli, when she's not doing her music, she comes and has a little chat sometimes. And there's Jonathan as well and some other people. So it's Jimbo, I think, as well. Lee sometimes. So I'm just saying some names out that sometimes come in chat as well. So I do appreciate all of you. And Minky says thanks for the live stream. And thank you, Olivia, for saying I'm the best YouTuber. I really appreciate that. And that you watch all my shorts videos. First person to watch my shorts Yummy Foods video. Thank you, Minky, for the compliments. Olivia, you're welcome, Sandra. I'm always going to be here when you are sad or upset. And I remember Jonathan from the first live I was on. Oh, bless you. Bless you. And I hope I'm here for you as well. Oh, lots of love. And thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who's watching. I know there's other silent people watching here that haven't commented. So lots of love to you too. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it because it really helps the channel out. Go and grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives book on Amazon if you haven't already got a copy. And I'll see you soon in the next video live stream. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of when I am going live again, because I tend to go live at random times so everyone can see me in different parts of the world at all different times. Lots of love. Take care. Bye and stay ace. Bye.